Keep stills. That's right, baby. Keep the pressure on them. Keep the pressure on them. Pressure makes diamonds. That's right. You want something great? You keep pushing forward. You don't stay in the same place or you become stagnant in mud. That's right, baby. You know, I've got a message for A.J. Brown. A.J., don't get buddy-buddy with the media. Don't get buddy-buddy with the media. They'll draw you in, and they'll turn you into a villain. If I were you, I'd keep them dudes at a little bit of arm's length here. If you think you can trust those people, do not. They do not have your best interest at heart. If I were you, I would keep a distance because they will vilify you. Keep them out there. Okay? Keep them out there. Don't bring them in here. Let me put this out there to you, and I want to show you what a scheme can do for a player and how shitty coaching in a shitty organization with a philosophy is a prime example of what's wrong with the Eagles right now. Do you know who has been the best edge rusher in the NFL the last 3 weeks? Who would you think has been the best edge rusher in the National Football League over the last 3 weeks? Who's been the best edge rusher? Do you know who that is? Derek Barnett. Pro Football Focus has ranked him the #1 edge rusher. 2.5 sacks in the last 3 weeks. He's 7th in quarterback hits. He's one of the top edge rushers in the NFL. What an absolute statement to how not to coach a guy. And if you're in the wrong system, you don't fit. Guess what that is an indictment of? They had a football player on their team that they could be using now, but they didn't know how to use him. They wanted to use him their way and not the player's strength. Complete indictment on him. Complete indictment. When you got a football player that you know his philosophy and you know his style, you know his traits, you know his strengths and weaknesses, you don't plug and play. You do what Jim Johnson did to Hugh Douglas. You make a position. Derek Barnett is one of the best edge rushers the last 3 weeks in the NFL. 2.5 sacks. Leads all edge rushers. 7 QB hits and 15 pressures for DeMeco Ryans, who knows how to use them. How crazy is that? How crazy is that when you're getting nothing from your edge guys? That you would cut a guy who's now becoming a productive player on a potential playoff team and could win the AFC South because of the impact that Derek Barnett has made on their defense. Derek Barnett couldn't do shit in 7 years. Maybe you weren't using him right in 7 years. That's right. Derek Barnett's out playing Josh Sweat. What? How's that possible? You cut a player who is playing Pro Bowl ball now. No, really? Hey, this isn't an opinion. This is a player's production. Man. It's incredible. This is facts. Let me throw something else at you. Pro Bowl came out. The list came out. Let me get these names right. I want to get these names exactly right here. This is such an indictment on your shitty general manager's ability to draft anybody. Do you think it's any coincidence the two top teams with the two top seeds in both conferences, the AFC and the NFC, have the best duo of linebackers in the National Football League? The Ravens have Patrick Quinn and Roquan Smith, both Pro Bowlers. Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, one's an alternate and one's a Pro Bowler. And you've got trash cans. Trash cans. Trash cans for linebackers. Do you think there's any coincidence that you have Queen, Smith in Baltimore, Warner and Greenlaw in San Francisco? And you've got trash can linebackers. Any coincidence? How's that possible? We definitely have coaching problems. Dude, no, you don't. Hey, hold on, Big Marshall, which is why I don't buy the AJ speech. I've lost faith in this team's organization. There you go. That's more like it. And all other Truth fans should be outraged. This team is spitting in our face. Dude, it doesn't matter who your coaches are. They want a type of coach. So if they change a guy out, they're going to change him for a 2.0 version. You know who you're going to hire next year? Brian Johnson and Sean Desai. And you know who you're going to hire after that? Brian Johnson, Sean Desai. And you know who you're going to hire after that? Brian Johnson, Sean Desai. You're going to hire the same people. I heard Tone and Rob on before me. Wholesale changes. Wrong department, dudes. Wrong departments. They're going to appease you by changing people out and putting the same guy in. It's not going to change. Just the names. The only thing that's going to change are the names on the coach's doors. Same style. Same philosophy. Same direction. So when you go, well, we're gonna make wholesale changes. No, you're not. No, you're not. You know what a wholesale change is? Hiring Lovie Smith and bringing his system into Tampa 2 and letting Lovie put a Tampa 2 in. Do you know what happens when you bring a coach? What happens when you hire a guy like Lovie Smith or Todd Monken? What happens when you do that? Do you know what happens? There's a fight for personnel. And guess who has control of the personnel? The coordinators. I need this. I need this. You know what you have in Philly? You'll work with this. You'll work with that. You can't coordinate to the best of your ability under that umbrella. No coordinator. Kyle Shanahan couldn't operate under that. Here's what you're going to use to run your system. That's not how, what did Parcells always say? Hey, if you want me to build a damn thing, let me do the shopping. Your boy is so bad at personnel. Hey, where are these Georgia boys? Where are these Georgia boys? What'd they do? After they didn't make the college football playoff, they all went and rooted for their team. Where were they? I'll give Jalen Carter some kudos. But where are the rest of these guys? And see, when I point things out to you, you attack me instead of the people at NovaCare. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to read some of the comments on people pointing that out to me and blaming me for pointing it out on what's going on at the NovaCare Center. What's your problem with what I'm pointing out? The facts? Don't let the facts get in the way. We definitely have a coach problem, Sills. They have no experience. That's why our team plays like a high school team. No, your team supersedes the high school coaching, and that's why you've won a ton of ball games. You'll never win a Super Bowl without an experienced coach. I heard something that Tone said, and it was the take of Sports Take. Tone, take a bow here on this. Howie didn't learn how to be a better GM. Howie learned, and I'll add this word, how to be a better conniver. How to be a better bullshit artist. Howie needed to be more insecure. He sharpened his insecure part of his DNA. The more insecure he is, you see it in his actions. And get this. Before we get into the topics here, am I right? I'm probably paraphrasing this, right? Jalen said that it took a lot of courage for A.J. Brown to say what he said. Am I right? Tone, is that a fair assessment of what I heard? That A.J., it took a lot of courage. Why would it take courage for the captain of your team to stand up and say something? Who do you have to have courage with? The media? I wouldn't think so. The GM? The owner? What's the courage? Why would it take courage to stand up and say something that you didn't like if you wear the C? Or maybe you don't wear the C, and that too is a rouge. Since when does it take courage to hold people accountable? And since when does it take courage for the captain of any team to say anything? That's not courage. Unless Jalen means it took a lot of courage to say something against the front office. I'm more convinced now than ever. A.J. Brown used the team to talk to the front office and the coaching staff. He wasn't talking to his players. Courage? What do you mean it took courage? 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 Once again, Don't get mad at me. Get mad at your pathetic, insecure football organization. No wonder it's underachieved for 30 years. It's pathetic. You're lucky you had coaches like Andy and Doug in the building. You're lucky. Because they overcame. Dude, at least Andy grew up. You know why Andy had more lateral movement as a coach? Because he grew up in the infant stages of Jeffrey Lurie owning the team. And he really didn't know. That's why Jimmy got away with the majority of the shit Jimmy got away with. Because Jerry didn't really know football that well. Okay? And now that the whole Doug Peterson thing has made that situation. Here are the two most significant years. Okay? Here's the two most significant years in Jeffrey Lurie's time owning the team. Winning the Super Bowl and the day they fired Doug. It has now led to this. And I'll say this to you too, once again. Last year, was not as a surprise. What was just as much as a surprise as 17 was. But what you couldn't do was, and what you can't do is, the most important part. You know what you had? You had a really good army. You had a really great group of men. You didn't have a really great general. That's why. The underachieving Eagles. A lot of wins, one title. It's pathetic, actually, how you run your organization. It's utterly pathetic. Since when does it take courage? Since when does it take courage to speak up for something that's going wrong on the team unless you're... Do you think the players are let me say this to you. Don't you get a sense that the players in the locker room are afraid to speak up? Don't you feel that way? That they're afraid. Why should players be afraid to speak up? Get this. Jason Kelce hasn't said anything publicly. How come nobody throws any shade on anybody? You know what? I happen to disagree with AJ on one point. And here's where I disagree. Hey, I didn't have anything good to say, so I didn't want to say anything. Hey, dude, maybe you should start talking some shit. We suck right now. We're not good. We're not getting it done. What's wrong with saying that? What's wrong with being genuine? They walk around in that place like they're on eggshells for a reason. That's Howie. That's Howie. Everyone in that building is afraid of Howie Roseman and how he acts because of the insecurity on what he did with Doug Peterson. They'll get rid of Doug. They will get rid of you. Not for poor production. Look at Derek Barnett. Derek Barnett is one of the best edge rushers right now in the last 3 weeks, according to Pro Football Focus. And he's helping the defense with DeMeco Ryans. But because they had a philosophy and a way of doing things, he didn't fit. He wasn't coached correctly. It's an indictment. It's a total indictment. People are really afraid to rock the boat in Philly. People? You mean the players? Can you imagine that? The players are afraid to speak up. Whew. They're not cowards. They've been told not to. The football players on that football team are afraid to say anything. They're afraid. Nobody says any. I've never seen a football team that's in a Chernobyl meltdown like the Eagles are in. And I've never heard anybody include, by the way, SOS Jalen Hurts leadership. Holy shit, are you sucking at this? Wow, are you a poor leader? Sorry, dude. Sorry. You're MIA in this. Dude, you got to have some balls and stand up. Can't be your wide out. Show some balls. Jalen, show some balls, dude. Come on, man. They're not going to get rid of you. Or maybe you think they will. Got to have some balls, Jalen. Jalen Hurts has no balls. I have to walk back my comment because the organization got their panties in a bind. Fuck them. This is my team. Dude, I got it. You know what? I bet you, I think McNabb would say something. I totally think McNabb, he'd make it about himself. But I think McNabb would say something. Am I right? Do you think McNabb would? I think McNabb would say something. Jalen, this is on you, dude. Leader of your football team can't be your wideout, and he has the target on him now. Okay? Show some balls, dude. Maybe McNabb wouldn't have. Okay? Maybe he wouldn't have. Okay? I'm just saying. Okay, so McNabb and him wouldn't stand up for anything like this. Hey, and one thing I do want to kind of go along with what Tone said on Sports Take, because he was talking about Howie. This is what Howie and his sandbox is. Cut a deal, structure deals, look for players with poor deals on other teams, find those players, present them to the president of the organization, and then you could both, the president and you, and the head coach can go to the owner. We want this. Your sandbox should be in that pail. It should be in a pail, not a sandbox. Because once you get in those other ones, you blow. When he's in that sandbox, guy deserves a raise. That contract he did with Jalen, spectacular. What he did with that defense, he deserves to be fired. Think about that. What he did with the contract, spectacular. What he did with that defense was horrific. Horrific. I see someone go, the AJ trade was phenomenal. Yeah. He had to cover for the fuck up of Jalen Reagor. Yeah. Jalen Reagor could have been Justin Jefferson. And you wouldn't have had to make a trade. And you wouldn't have had to pay $20 million 2 years ago. You could have got that guy on a rookie deal and paid him this coming year. And maybe you could have used some of that money on your defensive side of the football. Yeah. He can't draft wideouts. He finally got one right out of 50. And the rest of your guys, don't bring these D-Jacks, sure. Okay. The rest of them guys, whatever. There's a reason you've only had one 100 catch receiver in the history of your franchise, because the rest of those guys have been below average or average at best. Have you ever seen an organization, to use some words in here, flip-flop as much as you've seen it? That's an indictment of exactly what I always talk about, how the league is a day-to-day operation. You're only as good as the game you coach today, not the game you coached 10 years ago. We haven't had a sack since we released Barnett. How's that for you? And Barnett's one of the better players now in the league over the last 3 weeks since he's been a full-time starter. Boom! How you doing? Yes, sir. Woo! Gotta love it, baby. Once again, it's funny. I see certain people talking about flip-flopping. You still don't get the league. Look at the people that say that in here and don't get. Those are the same people that endorsed Carson Wentz or Chip Kelly at the beginning of their careers, or Nick Sirianni. And then when things go south and they suck, they want you to still stay on that same topic that they're great and that they're good, even though they're not. They want you to still stay. Oh, he's great, even though he stinks. People want me to say that Jalen Hurts is still great. He has 18 turnovers. He's not. I talk about things that players do on their production. I'm not a prophecy guy. I'll tell you when I'm making a prediction. You'll be a 5-win team in 2 years. That's a prediction. I'll let you know. I only talk about when players play good, bad, play great, play bad, play good, play great. It's up to the player on how I cover him, not up to me. What do you want me to do? Say that a guy's good when he sucks, like Jordan Davis? You guys want me to sit here and remember you were telling me, hey, Sills, don't you think you owe Jordan Davis? Why is he playing? Jordan Davis should be benched and in street clothes right now. He's useless. He doesn't even want to play. You know why you're suiting him up? Because he's a Howie Roseman first-round draft choice. All you need to know. Why are you playing Jordan Davis? He's a detriment to your run defense right now. I'd rather put Milton Williams in there, but they won't. You know why? Because he's a first-rounder. And they're going to play him at the expense of the team's run defense. Because that's what that guy does. Don't you think you owe Jordan Davis an apology? No, I don't. I don't, because he's exactly who I said he was. Okay? Oh, here's Prince. Sills hasn't. Hey, dude. I don't know. So a guy like Prince wants me to say that Jordan Davis is playing great ball now. I don't know how that makes sense to people. Are you watching a different game? Hey, don't get mad at me because you're getting run over. Why don't you talk about your fucking team that's getting killed? Don't put your anger on me. Put your anger on your shitty performance right now. You're aiming it at the wrong guy, dude. You need to be talking about your team laying down and quitting. You got the wrong guy. You're trying to make me the bad guy when your team is awful right now. I don't know why you're doing that. What's the point? This ain't me going out there getting 178 yards or having the shitty Cardinals run for 225 on you. A 3-win football team. Okay? Prince goes, we should play you, Sills, at DB. Wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter. Big Sills, Ravens playing like shit, like the Eagles losing the exact number of games at the end of the season in 12. They won the Super Bowl that year. Call me crazy, but we can win the Super Bowl this year. Peter, here's the difference between your organization and the Ravens. They actually have a coach. They actually had a coach, if I'm not mistaken, in 2012 in Brian Billick. Is that Brian Billick's Super Bowl? They actually had a coach in Brian Billick. Look at the coaches that they have had, strong-willed coaches. Okay? Strong-willed coaches in the building. Brian Billick and John Harbaugh. Okay? The Ravens hire coaches that are with strong will and give them the autonomy. Dude, Baltimore is a superior organization than you. Okay? What was it, Harbaugh in 12? Okay, that was the Flacco Super Bowl? All right. Both guys won Super Bowls. Look at the two coaches. John Harbaugh, Nick Liriani, or Lyingani. The liar, or Nick Pinocchio. There's a better one. Nick Pinocchio is your coach, and John Harbaugh. I mean, really, it's like the moon and the sun. You couldn't be more opposite. You got Nick Pinocchio versus John Harbaugh. Really? Okay. Yeah. Why answer me this. Why? Hey, I'll move on because we're going to look at positions of need. I don't even know why I'm doing this because this guy won't draft the right guy. We don't have near the level of coaching. Of course you don't. You know why? In Baltimore, they trust their coaches. And the owner is not as pig hungry as your owner is. Your owner has to have the power. He'd rather have the power than a Lombardi. Dude, you may never know how good Nick Pinocchio is. He may be a good coach. You may not know how good he is. He may be, you never know. Why are the players afraid to speak up? How come no one in our media asks that question? Why are guys apprehensive in speaking up? And why are the players constantly having to clarify their comments? Hey, Bob Lang, what are you doing? You're hurting the integrity of your players when you do that, when they say something. Don't they get it? Why is it that the players have to clarify their comments and not the coach when the coach bullface lies to you about the play in Seattle? How come he doesn't clarify that? Why is it the players' responsibility to have to clarify their comments, but the coaches don't have to? I wanted someone in our media in Philly to ask Sirianni, why did you feel it was in the best interest to lie about the play in Seattle? And if you're going to use the lame-ass reason that I wanted to fall on my sword for my players and my coaches, then here we are. You're afraid of criticism. You're afraid of constructive criticism. You're afraid of anyone contradicting anybody in that organization. You have an organizational problem, and it's called ego. Whew. If I was on the radio, I'd be fired tomorrow. I'd be fired tomorrow. Shit, I might not make the end of the day. Because that organization could never handle what I'm saying to you right now. They can't now. Hey, I want to throw this out to Hassan Reddick. Thank you very much for responding to my tweet. I really appreciate you liking what I said. It's not Reddick's fault. Thank you, Hassan. You go over to my Twitter page at Dan Sileo Show. He liked what I said. 33 games, he's got 26 sacks or 27 sacks. That's a hell of a career in Philly. And I say it one more time to you. And I appreciate it because I know a lot of you guys, like Darius and all you guys, are watching, but you're afraid now. See, I'm not going to say too much anymore, but players are afraid now to come on the program that we're going to come on because the organization is kind of putting Ziplocs on some of the players for speaking publicly. Just so you know. They're battening down the hatches over there at NovaCare with the players. Speaking publicly. Make sure you run everything through PR department. That's a fact. And I've been told that. Because it's all lies, Sills. Even AJ, he just wasn't quick enough to realize he dropped a nugget on Sirianni lying. This team is absolutely Marshall. He didn't, you know why? You know, a guy like AJ Brown came off genuine. And when a guy comes off genuine like that, he's not an angler. And so when he said, hey, man, I was made up at the end, he was thinking he was covering for the coach, when in actuality, he exposed the coach for going into some diatribe lie. And I was telling Tone, you know, you can always tell there's a guy that lies so much because he speaks so much. Guys who talk with a lot of words when asked a question, always question the motive. It doesn't take a lot to answer a question. No, yes. And when you over-explain it, the more you over-explain, the more you lie. Or you're trying to lie. Why are they afraid to speak up? Jalen Hurts said it took courage to act like a leader. I think that's all you need to know. I do. I think that's all you need to know about the Philadelphia Eagles management team. It took a lot of courage to speak up and be a leader. Why have captains? Why have a leadership council? Why have all those phony things if you're not implementing them? Okay? Why? The players have been speaking up all season? When? Who criticized who at the podium? Have I ever heard Jalen? Who? Who criticized people at the podium and the coaches? And every time they have said something, they've had to clarify it during the week and walk back. Name me a time when somebody criticized somebody. See, this guy says they've been criticizing. When? Who? Who criticized somebody? Who criticized the coach? Who criticized the player? Especially losing 4 or 5 in that run. Who's been criticizing? What they've said is this: we have to play better. We have to do this. We have to do that. Nobody's singling out guys. Fletcher Cox, what'd he say? Who did he call out? Name him, brotherly. Name a guy he called out. Who did he call out? Did he call out the D coordinator? Sean Desai? Who did he call out? Give me a name. Give me a name that Fletcher Cox said that guy's not playing well. That's made up. Nobody says anything in that place. They're afraid. Because you know what they're afraid of? That general manager has put so many fail-safes on that team. Okay? Called out the leadership. I didn't hear anybody calling any leadership out. That's a vague comment. I want to hear this. Jalen Hurts has to play better. The coach, Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson, have to be better in game situations. We're not getting to play in on time. We don't even have our personnel in on time. That's to the point. I don't need vague conversation. Vague. You guys are classic. Man, I'll tell you what. You have some of the dumbest sports talk radio people that I've ever heard in Philadelphia because they're all trumpeters so that they could get in the building and have a Slurpee or one of them fudge bars that Chip left behind. I mean it, man. You have no balls. That's not that market. That market's gone soft. Because you need that. I mean, you know why it's gone soft? Accessibility, because the Eagles have become more powerful. It's because of the fans. You empowered the Eagles to where you don't get the truth any longer locally, and that's why all your news comes from the national guys. Shit, if you want to get local news about the Eagles, you got to wait for Sundays so you can listen to Jay Glazer. So you can listen to Jay Glazer. He'll break the story for you. Every Sunday, he's got an Eagle nugget. Okay? Dude. Those guys ride the cannoli in that market. I hate it. Not everyone. I'd throw Derek Gunn in that conversation. He does not. Okay? He does not. Happy B-Day, Sills. Thank you. Niners, 9 Pro Bowlers, 12 alternates. Best roster in the league right now. There's no getting around it. Okay? Yeah. Your sports media in Philly rides the cannoli over there at the NovaCare Center. Say anything bad, you get spanked. Jesus, criminy, man. Can't speak the truth because, again, you know what happens? You get certain tools that will come at the guy who delivers the news and who's angry because they're this close to winning a Super Bowl. And what they did was they widened the gap for them not being consistently consistent. You want to know why you can't win multiple Super Bowls? And you don't want to know why you can't put back-to-back teams together where you look like you're a Super Bowl contender? It's because you're incapable of it. This is why I watch your show every day. Got to speak the truth. Thanks for keeping it real. Jeff, thank you for coming here, man. And I love the tag you got there. How is Brandon Ayuk not on the Pro Bowl? 1,410 yards? I know. 1,410 and he's not on the Pro Bowl. Really? Okay. Well, I'm not putting him ahead of CD or A.J. Brown. I'm not doing that. That's a heck of a run there that goes back to the days of the Niners when the Niners had Montana and the young teams. I never thought I would ever say this, man. The Philadelphia Eagles are afraid to have leadership. There's no leadership in that team. You don't have leaders. No, wait a minute. I'll take that back. Let me define that right. They have leaders from within. And the only people they're getting direction from are the guys from within. And they're whispering, oh, everyone, you know what they're doing now? They're whispering. I heard somebody say something. Was it Jeff Kerr the other day? Was it Jeff Kerr the other day, Tone, when he said he walked into the locker room after the Giants win, and it was like you went into a funeral home? It was like nobody was happy. Everyone was quiet. You know what that means? They're whispering because they don't want to say anything loud because they don't want anything to be heard. You walk into a room that you just won a ball game, that you just lost 3 straight, and it's like walking into a funeral parlor. Why is that? Because they're not happy going to work. They don't like the leadership around them. They're on an island by themselves. They're doing this by themselves. And the only people that can pull themselves out of this is them. They have no help from the coaches, from the front office, from the ownership. This is why they're quick to pull the plug on people, because they don't know what they're doing. It's when you get a good coach in there and you get real good leadership. They've won all these games because of those men. You know how Tony used to always say, they're winning in spite of their coaches. They're winning in spite of their organization. That's where they are right now. And now they're whispering again. This is similar to what you had with Wentz and Foles argument going on in the locker room. It's just a different dynamic. Because then you had Wentz and Foles as the enemies. Now what you have is the coaches and the players as enemies. It's the same fundamental. It's just a different dynamic. Am I wrong? And it split the locker room. You know what's splitting the locker room? Players versus coaches. Before, it was Foles and Wentz. Now, it's the coaches and the players. But that is there because the front office allows that. That's because they allow it. I want to give you guys a little bit of history here. Do you know how you conquer a nation? You divide the nation. You know how you keep control of a nation? You keep it divided. And that's what the front office does. I think they like this. Because it keeps everybody from being critical and afraid to speak their mind. I'm actually starting to think this is by design. Would I be off base? Because you're repeating history again. Because they can't help themselves. Jeff Kerr said something. Tony's the only one that really didn't gloss over it. He's right. They can't keep sustaining success because you know why? They divide the room on purpose to keep control of the players and coaches. It's by design. That's why you have, think about the philosophy you have to build it this way. You have more control of the personnel, you have more control of the coaches, and you have more control of the direction of the team when you divide the locker room. And when you don't give power to the coaches and you control all that, you have more power now than you did during Doug's time. And this is why you can't sustain success. You're going to have peaks and valleys. It's going to go up and down like this. And it's going to be these big swings moving forward. Tone's right. Howie Roseman, he's not a better GM. He's a better conniver on what not letting happen what happened to him after Doug or during Chip. Totally true. You learn a lesson. If I give too much power to this coach is going to want, and I don't want that. I want to have my hands on everything, and I want say in everything. Well, some guys aren't. Hey, this guy thinks hey, when you wear so many hats and you have so many jobs, you thin your talent. What makes really great coaches and general managers great, they know their limitations and they work on their strengths. Not try to play in their weakness, which is drafting. This guy's a terrible drafter. Hey, by the way, like I said a couple minutes ago, how them Georgia guys doing? Are they helping? Nolan Smith has been MIA all year, healthy too, I think. You got another guy, Nakobe Dean, who's like a paper airplane. I think you need another leader in the building in the front. Oh, man, that would never go down. I don't even know why I talk like that. Howie needs to be careful because if he harms the team, Laurie will bring in another Chip Kelly. That's funny you should say that because that's the direction we're going here in a couple minutes. When does it get to a point where the owner changes direction? Now, will the owner do this? We just won a Super Bowl 11 months ago. Don't I give him another year? Howie Roseman? Now, wait a minute. Here, think about this. It's either Howie or Nick that goes. I could elevate my son to general manager, keep Nick. Is Howie Roseman's job really safe if this thing goes completely to shit? Or would they take some of his powers away? You don't have to fire him. Maybe what you do is you elevate his kid. Maybe the kid can control him. Aren't they grooming him for that role? I hate to say this. That Julian Laurie kid might actually be the best thing ever happened to the Eagles. Because then that kid's got to put his name on something finally. How old is that kid? How old is he? Maybe the best thing happen is that kid does take some power away. And how he's held more accountable. Nick's a pawn in this. Julian isn't. Firing Nick? Hey, Joshua, if you fire Nick, you're going to hire Nick again. What's the point? This is from upstairs. This is from upstairs. If you fire Brian Johnson, you're going to hire Brian Johnson. Right? We need to clean house like the Niners did with Trent Baalke and Harbaugh. Too much drama. Hollywood. Yeah, the York family thought that they were going to hang with Trent Baalke, and then they realized that guy just completely blew out loud. And what happened after Jim Harbaugh retired or left the 49ers and resigned or was fired, whatever? He was 41-19-1 when he left with an NFC championship. Walked out the building, mass retirements, mass exodus, poor drafts, and Trent Baalke has been now reduced to getting Doug Peterson water in Jacksonville. That's what he does for a living now. Trent Baalke is Doug Peterson's boy. Go get me a egg and cheese omelet. Go get me a Happy Meal. By the way, bring in your draft papers. I want to see who the guys are on the board. And by the way, do me a favor. After you drop off my Big Mac, make sure you close the door behind you. I'll call you when I need you. That's Trent Baalke's job now in Jacksonville. Oh, yeah. Get a Blizzard, too. Tone reminded me. Give me an Oreo Blizzard. I don't know, man. That thing's on my mind. I can't get that thing off my mind. Speaking of my boy Tone, he's going to join us at 3:30, and we're going to have Jason Cole, NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame. By the way, just so we can confirm it, I put Eric Allen on my list of the 15, and it's been whittled down now. I wonder where Jason went. Did he put Eric Allen on his 15? I talked to 10 people. I believe Eric Allen is going to be pretty close. I'm potentially getting into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Jason's one of the 50 voters that votes on that thing. So there's a couple guys that I know that have put him on their top 5 as well. So we'll see. We'll see how it gets to and where it goes to. I'll tell you what we're going to do. Biggest needs in the offseason for the Eagles. And I'm going to go draft. Then we'll do free agency tomorrow. There's going to have to be a lot of work here on this team. There's going to be a ton of work that needs to be done. And we're going to switch gears, and we're going to go into that. And I got a list from a couple NFL teams of the top 5 players at the need positions that I think the Eagles are going to have to go into. And I started looking at some of the tape of some of these guys last night when I got the list. So we'll go over that. And again, you got to remember something. You got to remember, think about where the Eagles are going to land in the draft, plus all the compensation picks that they're going to get from last year's free agency batch. They're going to have a ton of picks that they're going to be able to move up and down in many of the rounds, especially in the premium rounds. So they're going to be able to move around. They're going to have a lot of latitude to move up and down in the draft this coming April. So keep that in mind when we do this exercise. All right, don't forget, Tone's going to be throwing out a code word, giving you an opportunity at winning yourself some merchandise and some Hooters gift cards. Great chance for you to do that. You'll see a code word. All you have to do is email us at dansilioshow@gmail.com. We will name the winner on a Football Monday. We will give that name out, and potentially you could be that person as well. Don't forget the great lunch specials we have at Hooters, Monday through Friday, 11:30 to 3, boneless wings, happy hour Monday through Friday, 4 to 6, 6 items, $6. Go to northeasthooters.com. That's northeasthooters.com. And when you roll in, do me a favor, tell them Big Sil sent you.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near, shop, have a beer. Christmas shopping shouldn't be hard. Give your friends a Hooters gift card.
This year, stuff their stockings and yours too with a one-size-fits-all gift card. Buy a $25 Hooters gift card and receive a $5 Santa's bonus card. Make it Hooters for the holidays.
Eat chicken wings, buy Hooters things. Christmas is near, gift cards are here. Good at Hooters everywhere now. Hooters gifts are always favored.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At Malamut & Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their Fantasy Pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sales National Football Show. Appreciate you coming aboard. Eagle Pro Bowlers. Lane Johnson, first team. A.J. Brown, first team. Landon Dickerson, third team. Hassan Reddick, third team. Jason Kelsey, first team. DeAndre Swift, second team. How about Hardgrave made the third team for the San Francisco 49ers? Had a really good season. All those guys are worthy of being on the Pro Bowl roster. It's a great honor to be on the roster. The game was never really significant over the last 25 years. It's just being named. You get incentives for making that and being on that. So kudos to them. Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, and Stafford are your first, second, and third team starting quarterbacks for the NFC. Rightfully so. Those guys played good football towards this. But by the way, remember something. You can't have 700 turnovers. And you know what people will go? Jalen Hurts, I want you guys to stop doing one thing. Nobody cares about Jalen Hurts' 15 rushing touchdowns except true football people. Media people don't care about it. I've been trying to tell you that for 3 years. No one cares. He's got 38 touchdowns to 24 touchdowns to Matthew Stafford. Did it matter? No. No. It didn't matter. Had no bearing. None. Yeah, but Sills, he's got almost 40 touchdowns. I know. Like I told you, it doesn't matter. Sills, it's frustrating. I know. It doesn't matter. That's why when you put the best quarterbacks in the category of who the league looks at as the best QBs, Hurts' name is never in it. With the media, with the players, top 10. Sure. Especially in the NFC, because there's not a lot of very good ones in there. Yeah. That's right. They never put they don't give a shit about the rushing. This guy's got 600 yards and 15 touchdowns. Does that matter? Of course it does. To real people who see the game, yeah. But when it comes to looking at who the best players in the league at those positions are, does it matter? No. But it's not right. Where are you guys? You think everything is like supposed to be what? Rainbows and butterflies? Holy shit, some of you are the dumbest people on the planet when you think that stuff. Yeah, but he's got almost 40 touchdowns. I know. Sills, who has more of an impact in a game? Hurts. Sills, who's a better quarterback? It's a tricky question. Who do the media think's a better quarterback? Matthew Stafford. Who had a better season? Impact-wise? Hurts. Who's a better passer? Stafford. They value him being more of a passer. Here, Jalen, you want to hear this? Jalen Hurts, and to some extent, Lamar Jackson, the ability to run the ball hurts their position in the league on being considered one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Do you know that? Even though, to me, I think it makes you more of a weapon, but it hurts your perception more than the reality. Doesn't it? Here's a prime example of it. Should a guy with 24 touchdowns beat a quarterback out who's got 40? I mean, it's a dumb question, but the result was dumb. Right? Here, think about what I just said to you. Think about what I just said. Okay? Should a quarterback with 40 touchdowns, okay, 40 touchdowns, and the impact he had, should he be beaten out by a guy with 24? 40 to 24. No. It's a dumb question with an even dumber result. Stafford's in. Pro Bowl skills competition, Dirty D. You're looking at it wrong. They're $1 million incentives. Skills competition, you're looking at the whole thing wrong. Being named to a Pro Bowl, being named first team All-Pro, those are $1 million bonuses. You're totally looking at it wrong. Skills competitions, who gives a shit? Okay, skill competitions. I'll throw a football one time, and who cares if I win it or not? I just made $1 million bonus because I was named to the Pro Bowl. That's all those guys ever cared about. Being named to the Pro Bowl. Hey, you want to hear something crazy? I got an incentive just for being on a ballot. I got a $10,000 incentive just because I made the Pro Bowl ballot. And I've showed you the ballot. Just for being on it. You make it? Oh, yeah. Back then, I think there were $250,000 bonuses if you made first team. And if you were like alternates or second or third, okay, you got extra money too. And Jalen's like the first alternate. I think he probably gets some money for that. Okay? I think he probably gets some dough for that. Pro Bowl will make for great TV background noise. Okay? Sills, what'd you spend the $10K on? Cody, I'm not at liberty to say. I'll just say this. Table 9. Chandelier, $1 million saloon. I don't know. Could have been anything like that. I was young and foolish. Sue me. Sue me. Who knew? Who knew, right? I don't know. Look at Hollywood. Big boobies. Boobies? There's a place in Florida called the Booby Trap, in case you're keeping score, from what I hear. They got one in Orlando and Miami. I don't know. I only heard it. Sorry, Aunt Betty. I only heard that they got places like that. Okay? Hey, say no to fat girls forever. If you want to be fed and loved, dude, always marry a fat chick. Remember, I told you that. That's lesson number 1. You want to be miserable like Big Sales? You marry a hot chick. Trust me when I tell you. Oh, I've been married for 35 years, too. It's not good. Yeah. Okay. All right. We're going to do something here. I used to go to Players Club in Brooksville. No idea what you're talking about, Jerome. I mean, no idea what you're talking about, Dirty D. Hey, and don't say anything so bad about Chandelier. She had great shoes. She had a great pair of shoes. Wow. Did they glow in the dark? Unbelievable. Some of the best shoes I've ever seen. They fit her like a glove. Oh, my God. The best pair of shoes I've ever seen. Holy cow. Oh, man. Yeah. Again, I was young. I was young like Tone, eating Oreo cakes and not worrying about my weight. Not that I do now anyway, but we're here. It's all good. Same Triple E shoes. Is that what she wore? I probably think so. Hey, thank you, Diego. Appreciate it, man. All right, let's take a look at this. What do you guys think the biggest needs that Howie's going to have to put on his board? What do you think's on the Eagle board right now for needs on that football team? I wrote this down earlier, too. I want to get this right. Somebody help me out from the Eagles on this. Here we go. I'm going to tell you what's on the board right now in Philly. Put it in 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 groups that they have. And I'm going to ask you a fundamental question here. So put 5 in a row. Quarterback, running back, O-line, linebacker, safety, edge. Put 5 in a row. And I'll tell you what I'm being told is the top 5 in the scouting room and the top 5 positions that they've circled. And you tell me. Free up cap space. They'll have a ton of that because they got a ton of one-year contracts on the defensive side. Right tackle, center, outside linebacker, edge, I'm assuming, Mike, corner. DB, LB, RB, and center. Okay? Linebacker. Cody, that would be a change in fundamentals. We'll get to that in a minute here. Cornerback, safety, edge, power back. I think you're in the room there, Cody. I just don't know if the order's right. Corner. First and second round, Richie. Right tackle. Linebacker at 4. Edge at 5. Safety, or you're saying safety at 5. 4, edge. Okay. Here, let me go here and I'll tell you where they are. What I'm hearing. Corner. Linebacker. Edge. Safety. And running back. Let me say it again. Corner. Linebacker. Edge. Safety. And running back. And I wrote down some of the top names that people are now putting together for Bledsoe. And so some of you don't know who follow me and have followed me when it comes to the draft. I am a huge college football fan. I vote on all the awards and such. And I pretty much follow a lot of these guys' careers. Hey, did I not tell you Devin Witherspoon was going to be a sensational football player and he was my favorite player in the draft? So I'm hoping for a 2012 kind of draft. Lito Shepherd, Sheldon Brown, Michael Lewis. It's a heck of a draft right there. Remember I told you Devin Witherspoon? Devin Witherspoon and Jalen Carter are going to be pretty close for the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Jalen probably wins it. By the way, if I had to do that all over again, Would I take Devin Witherspoon over Jalen Carter? No. Even though I think Witherspoon is a heck of a ball player. Okay? I just think that, personally, I think Jalen Carter's had a great rookie year. I think he's fallen in. Remember Jerome Brown didn't start his first year. He was an alternate. I think he was behind Keith Wilkes, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, Mike Pitts. He was behind Mike Pitts, wasn't he? If I remember right, he was behind Mike Pitts. Mike Pitts was the other starter in that D tackle position. Am I right? That 87 year, wasn't Mike Pitts the starting D tackle? Jerome wasn't the starter that year. So Jerome didn't start. DB or edge is priority. Solid playmaker at either position. I hope Jalen Carter wins it. I have 80-1 future ticket on defensive player of the rookie of the year. $500 get you $4,000. Senor, I probably think he's going to win it. It's going to be close. Hey, I would say this to you, Senor. A couple months ago, it was a slam dunk. Now it's kind of evened it up a bit, but I still think he's done enough to win that award. Okay? He's done enough to win that award, man. What's he at in sacks right now? Is he at 6.5 sacks? It's not. He's had like a Fletcher Cox rookie season. I'll tell you something about Fletcher Cox. He is a pro's pro. That guy at 32, 33 years of age knows how to prepare for a season, knows how to prepare for a game. He is a pro's pro. That guy, boy, I'm going to tell you something, man. Boy, Fletcher Cox is really close to me, in my opinion, on being a Hall of Fame football player. Now, do I think, get this, and here's where I'm going to go like this, and I'll ask Jason Cole this question next hour. You think that Bryant Young is a better player than Fletcher Cox? Like, Bryant Young went into the Pro Football Hall of Fame a few years ago. Do you think Bryant Young is a better D tackle than Fletcher Cox? Man, I don't know. I don't think so. I know he hurt his leg. He got comeback player of the year. Bryant Young was a good player. I don't know that Bryant Young was better than Dana Stubblefield. I mean, okay. I mean, well, here, let me take a look at that just to be sure. Here's the 1987 Pro Bowl ballot. Here's the Pro Bowl ballot that I was on. And there's the Eagles. Yep, Mike Pitts was a starter. Mike Gullick was there. Ken Clark, that's the other guy. It was Ken Clark and Mike Pitts, and the ends were Clyde Simmons and Reggie. Sound right? There's your interior tackles. This is the Pro Bowl ballot for the interior tackles. Giants had, who did the Giants have? Jim Burt, Eric Howard. Who did the 49ers have? Who did San Francisco have? They had Michael Carter. Dallas had Randy White, Kevin Brooks. He was okay. Who's that top team? That Atlanta? Oh, yeah, that's Casillas. Yeah. Remember, I made a Pro Bowl ballot that year. Then I started to get sick. And I was kind of the beginning of the end there. I love Fletcher's resume, though. Okay, so we're going to, to me, it's corner, and I told you where we're going to go. Let's take a look at some of these guys. Let's start it out with the cornerback position. First and foremost, let's go here with this. How many corners do you think the Eagles are going to bring back? Do they Bradbury or, now remember something, before you say you're not bringing Bradbury back, there's a financial casualty in this. So before you say they're not bringing him back, That's a pretty big nugget for a corner to have to put on dead money. So be careful when you say that, because remember, start with the money before you go with the evaluation. Should Bradbury be out? Yes. That's not how it works. The money starts and then you go with player evaluation. Start with the dough. That's probably more it right there, Jim. You're probably going to have to eat the kid and keep the kid and bring him back, Bradbury. And you're going to get rid of Slay. It's why and plus, get this, Slay will be 33. I think he's 33 if I'm not mistaken. Didn't he just have a birthday? Hey, Darius, I know you watched the show. Drew Rosenhaus will take care of you. They did a nice job on your contract. You and I are cool, dude. But you're not coming back, dude. And they gave you that bag of money up front for a reason, so they can get out of that contract coming up here in 2024. Yeah, that's the reason they did that. No, they're going to move off of Slay. He's 33. You're not bringing him back. Slay will be gone. You got to create space there. So here are the corners. Now, if I look at it correctly, the Eagles are sitting around right now 22, depending on what they do in the playoffs. Remember, right now there's only 18 spots. Here are the 18 spots that we know right now that are certainty in the draft, unless there's some trading. Chicago gets the first pick, Washington second. Now, again, this could change a little bit after this weekend. New England's third, Arizona's fourth, the Giants are fifth, the Chargers are sixth, Tennessee seventh, the Jets are eighth, Atlanta's 9. Chicago gets another pick at 10. So they got the first pick and the 10th pick. Pretty good for Chicago. What do? Do they stay on Justin Fields and build a team around him? That'll be interesting. Howie needs to only acquire players that will play our standard. Too many games with poor execution. They need better coaching too. Raiders are at 11. Minnesota 12. New Orleans 13. Denver 14. Seattle 15. Cincinnati 16. Arizona's second pick. Arizona has the 4th pick and the 17th pick. And Pittsburgh at 18. This is as of right now. Teams can kind of change because Pittsburgh's still alive in a playoff race, and so is Seattle. So that could change. So we'll know more on draft order next week, but that's where we stand as of right now. And the Eagles are probably down in the mid-20s right now. Now, if the Eagles get bounced, you're going to be around 19, 20, 21, somewhere in there. Okay, so, I mean, to get a guy like Kool-Aid McKinstry from Bama, he's going to be around the 12th pick. He's a top-rated corner in the draft. I watched him in the SEC title game. I watched him in the playoff game against Michigan. I thought he did a great job in both games. I think he's a really good football player. I think he's got great feet. He played in a great system. And remember something here about Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid played against some of the best wide receivers in the country. And that, to me, is important. When you're playing against some of the top-flight kids in the country on a week-to-week basis, Texas A&M, LSU, places like that, Georgia, and you're playing against top-flight talent that's going to be also drafted in the top-flight positions when it comes to the draft, your competition matters. Competition matters who you're playing against. Shit, you could put up 2,000 rushing yards or 2,000 receiving yards. If you're playing against nobody and nobody plays defense, that's a problem for me. Like, how many people look at Southern Cal and go, man, they have a lot of great defensive players on Southern Cal? I don't believe they do. There's one kid maybe that they have on that team that's playing in a poor system. They got this kid, Nate Wiggins. He'll be down around 16. He's at Clemson. Another great player. You got to remember something about the Clemson players. Clemson is like an SEC team because Dabo played in the SEC. So he recruits SEC-type ball players. Aggressive, smart, love the game, true position players, athletes. Clemson did a nice job after being 4-4 on the season, they rallied back. They had a 10-win season. One of the very few teams, only them and Alabama in the last 15 years have had as many 10-win seasons. Dabble does a really great job in recruiting. That's a really good – Clemson puts out some pretty good football players too. I like the program. I hate the ACC. I think the ACC is just – I think it's a weak conference. I don't give a shit about Wake Forest and Duke. NC State's pretty good, okay? There's some good programs in there, okay? Cooper DeJean from Iowa, hanging around 19th. I would say this to you. Iowa, how many really great wide receivers are in the Big Ten? 5? Really have to work that kid out. I want to get to my guy, Tone. We'll do a little more of this as we talk to Tone here. I'll bring him on here now.
Big Sills, how we feeling, sir?
Good.
Awesome.
You know what, Tone? I'll tell you what I'm disappointed at.
Oh, man.
Since when does it take courage to say something when you're the captain of your team?
It should be expected, right?
I guess so.
Shouldn't be something that you get credit for. Should be something that you it just is.
Aren't the
You know what I
players
mean?
saying a lot without saying a lot?
Of course they are. They have been for weeks. Of course they are. But here's the thing. They're in an environment where you want to make sure you want to make sure your key fob still works to get into the building. So one thing I will say, man, Howie Roseman does an amazing job keeping that building as buttoned up as you've ever seen, really. You would think they move like they're running a legit Fortune 500 company for real. They make sure there's no leaks. You know, they're ran like a pharmaceutical.
It's like Fort
company.
Knox.
Like they're ran like a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
No secrets.
Like not just no secrets, but also you better know how to keep one too.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like the Wuhan lab the last month. Something leaked out, man, and guess what? It's killing the inspiration of the team right now.
Yeah, and I wish I could say with absolute confidence that this team is going to turn things around in the playoffs, but I can't assume that. What kind of voice would I be if I just outright just lied about how I feel about this team right now? All I ever do is try to tell the truth.
Tone, do me a favor, man. Stop saying they're going to clean house because they're going to hire Brian Johnson and Sean Desai again. Then you know who they're going to do? They're going to clean house and hire Brian Johnson and Sean Desai again. It's not going to change.
But doesn't it have to end at some point?
Okay. All right.
Right? Like,
okay.
I mean,
that's owner stepping in.
Point, doesn't it have to, like at some point, and I totally understand your premise, right? They have a way of doing things, but doesn't it have to come to an end at some point?
2 years, 5 wins. Get this.
Because it's funny you say that.
Because 4 wins fired Doug.
Yeah, 4 wins fired Doug. That was
wins will fire Howie.
And 4 wins fired Andy. I think in Andy's final season, they went 4-12 or something.
They may not fire him. They may bring the kid in 2 years because he'll be 30 then. And they may, I'm telling you, Tone, the thing I said earlier, that may be the greatest thing to happen for the Eagles. Even if the kid is not qualified, at least Howie will have to answer to somebody in the building. And the father's going to listen to the kid.
Are you talking about the Julian, right?
Yeah. Maybe they elevate him to president. And because again, then he has his name on it. And if Howie Roseman, hey, dude, Howie Roseman deserves a raise for the contract that he put together for Jalen Hurts. But on the same token, he deserves to be fired for the way he built the Eagle defense this year.
What's so funny?
So take one of those away from him and stick to his strength.
I'm willing to bet. This is going to sound crazy, and this is so far in the future, but I'm willing to bet the moment Julian Lurie takes over, Howie doesn't last another 5 years past that.
Oh, 5 years?
If
I'd be
Philadelphia.
shocked too.
You know what I mean? I don't see at the moment Julian takes over. I'll be shocked if Howie's here past. From that point, I'll be shocked if he's here 5 years beyond that. Because I've thought about this. The moment Julian's name started, moving through through the network and everything, over the past couple seasons, I thought about this. I said, how would Howie Roseman feel taking orders from some little whippersnapper?
He would be okay with it.
You think he would?
Yeah. You know why?
I don't know if he would last 5 years.
It's his environment with the owners that they've set up that way, where if he went along, got along, okay, at the end of the day, as long as he's in a meeting, as long as he's in a meeting with those two guys constantly, he's going to manage that.
So you think he would be emboldened if Julian took over? Because I'm operating under the assumption Jeffrey's going to step away entirely. And
you said it earlier, dude. He's not a better GM. He's a better conniver.
Yeah, well, what I was saying that the dude
he ain't a better GM, Tone.
He's gotten away with a lot of things. He hasn't really even Jeff said it, right? He's been very up and down and has not had a consistent trajectory his entire career. And
why is that, you think?
He hasn't been able to do that for the simple fact that I said it earlier. Damn, what did I say? He's incapable of deviating from his priors. He can't help but to fall in love with how he's done something, and he's emboldened himself to believe that it's his way is foolproof, when in reality, for example, 2017, so many things happened that led to that Super Bowl that doesn't get talked about enough.
And externally.
Yeah. I'm going to give the people some real examples. That season, Aaron Rodgers went down for the season with a broken collarbone. He was done. So that means the Packers were a non-threat, and that's when they were hot. He was a non-threat. Secondly, Ezekiel Elliott was suspended for, I believe, 60 to 75% of that season. He didn't come back until the back end of the year for the Cowboys. And historically, Ezekiel Elliott has given us problems. And that was when he was in his prime. So the Cowboys were playing with one arm tied behind their back.
And the Saints got upset in that game up in Minneapolis.
And the Saints got upset with a terrible call in Minneapolis. Or no call, however you want to call it. So there were so many things, people don't talk about this enough. At halftime in that Atlanta divisional game, Nick Foles threw a duck, and Keanu Neal could have picked it off. Yeah. But Jackass decided to jump up with his knees, and the ball bounced off his knees instead of landing in his hand. And when it bounced off his knees, Torrey Smith caught it and put them in field goal range to put to add 3 points to the score. So and they beat the Falcons by like 5 points or 3 points, something like that. So my point is, there are so many things that transpired in that season that goes far beyond Howie Roseman's reach. And I think for him to believe that they have this tried and true formula that doesn't deserve to be revamped or revisited is completely egotistical, and it's nonsense. The linebacker position in particular, me and Rob was talking about it earlier. I believe, they've been saying that they have a hard time, or they don't like to invest in that position, right? They don't like to invest in it. That's what they say. You
see my tweet earlier today?
No, I missed it. But
I tweeted out at 9:00 this morning. I go, there can't be a coincidence that Greenlaw and Warner and Queen and Smith are on the two top teams in the AFC and NFC that just secured home field advantage. There can't be a coincidence to that.
It's not a coincidence. Listen, when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl and they beat the Chiefs, their linebacker core was on fire. They had Devin White, Levante David, I can go on and on. Those were their two main guys, though.
Young guys, too.
Exactly, young guys. But my point is, though, with Howie Roseman and linebackers, they've been telling us or showing us that they don't invest in the position. What if we've been looking at this all wrong, right? What if they don't invest in the position, not because they don't believe in it? What if they don't invest in it because they know for a fact they suck at evaluating it?
Do you think they'll change their mentality heading into this draft, seeing how other teams have valued the position Get this. There's no coincidence also that the 49ers have a running back who's got 21 touchdowns, 2,040 yards in total offense from scrimmage, and is going to be second in the MVP. A close vote. Probably Lamar wins it, though.
Because he's a quarterback.
But he's not even going to play this weekend against the Rams, which, by the way, Wentz is starting. So they're going to win that game. I think the Niners anyway. Do you think that they'll reevaluate how they look at both the running back and linebacker position?
Maybe,
how about this? Maybe not so much where they value it as the O-line and D-line and corners, but do you think they put more of a value on it at least?
And that's the thing, right? No one's telling them to spend
30%
of the cap on a
I'm
linebacker.
telling you to go get TJ Edwards.
Get one guy. And then, listen, I said
stick with Edwards.
Yeah, you could have did that. But that's neither here nor there, right? I said this to Rob earlier, and he agreed. No one's saying that you have to spend the bulk of your cap on your entire linebacker room. What we're saying is at least spend some kind of money on one guy, particularly your Mike, and then fill in your off-ball linebackers with maybe some journeyman. Okay, I can roll with that. I believe on every level of your defense, you need to have at least one Pro Bowler if you can. It's hard, but I think you should, or at least at the very least, someone who's competent and does their job at it. Because because when you draft guys, right, you're not especially in the first round, you're not looking for superstars. You're looking for starters.
Correct.
You're looking for starters when you draft. That's all you're looking for.
And from two down, you're looking for depth.
Right, starter and depth. So I believe, especially on the defensive side, on each level, and that's safety, corner, linebacker, D-line, I believe you need to have at least a high-quality starter, high competent, or at least 2 to 3 Pro Bowlers within those 4 groups, because that way you have a high margin for error on each level, and you have a high level of accountability. You have guys you can put your trust in. But when you spend so much of your assets on the D-line, and then you completely ignore linebacker and safety, and then you think by the grace of God you find a corner, how can you sustain that? They don't have a sustainable defensive formula.
And their life's why Howie Roseman can't be sustainably successful year to year, because of his indecisions and his poor drafts that he combines with each and every single year. And this is why it's a prime example. And Jeff Kerr pointed it out, and it's a perfect example these last 2 years. It's sensational last year, uninspiring this year. This is why, and again, it's the misses in the draft that end up the casualty of this, on why you can't balance it.
They can't
evaluate the linebacker position, right?
It's almost criminal.
Can't get the depth. How about this, Tone? To add to your comment, over the last 3 weeks, 2.5 sacks, 15 pressures, 7 quarterback hits. He's the top defensive edge rusher in the last 3 weeks. Do you know who that guy is?
Yeah, I heard you talking about it earlier.
It's Derek Barnett.
Who would have thought, for one? And also,
well, all you have to do is get around a good coach and D'Amico Ryans, and God forbid he gets some decent coaching and put in a position to succeed. That's a complete indictment.
No,
what you're talking about on scheme and not deviating off of what you do. You had a guy in the building that could help Josh Sweat right now if you use them correctly. And people are going, we didn't do anything for 7 years here. Well, shit, dude, how many linebackers have you cut that you've drafted in the first 3 rounds in the last 10, 20 years? You've cut a ton of these guys. I'm going to do that exercise again. I think there's something like 50 corners that they've drafted since 2000. And like 2 have been decent.
Yeah. And, here's the thing, and I'll be honest, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I wasn't a Derek Barnett fan for the longest
time. Neither am I.
But to your point about the fact that he is able to produce, situations matter.
He's
right?
producing. I'm looking at him producing. I'm not talking about him being whether he's a star or he's going to be a
right.
He's producing, and that's what they need right now. They haven't had a sack in 6 weeks.
Exactly, and that's I think the bigger conversation, like you said, he's producing over there. But the bigger conversation is, how weren't you able to get something out of him? How weren't you able to? And I was one of the people that was saying, I don't care what they do with him. Trade him, do whatever. I was on that train because he didn't produce for such a long time. but then you see him all of a sudden producing in Houston, and now you got to ask yourself, hold on, wait, were we not maximizing?
I watched him last week, and I was like, that can't. When I saw Barnett, I went, who's that? I didn't realize that, and this guy was cut.
Yeah, he was waived.
I didn't know, and I said, that can't be Derek Barnett. And I text Seth, and I go, Seth, are you watching this guy playing for D'Amico Ryans? He goes, I'm watching that game exactly. He goes, my jaw's on the floor. Dude, he's running around like the guy you thought you drafted. Yeah. I'm with you. Do I think he keeps it up? Nothing lends me to believe he will. However,
you could use that production right now. You can use that
clearly use that production right now
and that depth. So, another miscalculation, to underestimate how much depth you needed at that position. We got a Giants game coming up, and we haven't talked about it not once this week. Ain't that a shame?
You're not capable. You're not capable right now of talking about that because you've got more internal problems that are bigger right now, and the locker room has been lost.
Yeah.
The only people that are keeping that thing together are the players. It's not the coaches. It's not the front office. And again, Tone, why is it that Nick Sirianni doesn't have to clarify his Seattle comment, but AJ and Hurts have to clarify their comments? How come the coaches don't have to have a come to Jesus conversation, and why you both-faced lied to people? And if you fall on the sword, well, I'm falling on the sword for my players and my coaches. That's not an excuse.
Right.
Why aren't they held accountable? The coach, you know what? I'm convinced completely now that AJ Brown, and he better be careful too, man, because he's now got a bullseye on him, and these media guys, he feels these media guys are going to be coming to him now. You better watch out there, man. You better draw some lines in the sand here. You better keep those guys on a little bit further away from you, because you know what they will? They will turn you into a monster if you're not careful.
It's all about getting views, right?
Don't let them too close to you. They're not your friends.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see how the rest of this plays out, because I'm curious to know how they perform on Sunday, knowing everything that's been going on for the past 2-3 weeks, in the media and whatnot. I'm generally curious because I don't know where a team goes from here when you've had this type of collapse, when you don't have confidence in the coaching staff.
Don't talk to them like they're kids.
You can't go but so far with this dynamic.
You're paid millions of dollars. Act like a professional and a man. Go do your job. I don't like hearing people talk about, well, will this send them in this direction or that? Hey, fuck that. You get $15 million a year. Go do your job. I don't want to hear any crying. I don't want to hear any bitching. I don't want to hear any screaming. My job is to go out there and play ball on Sunday and for us to win a ball game. That stuff that goes on upstairs, I have no control of that shit. Go play a ball game. Go do your best. Stop worrying about the noise around you. This is why I have
Is that why you think they're not where they are?
Not being direct with each other.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. Is that why you believe they aren't where they're supposed to be? Do you think there's too much focus on what they can't control?
Yes.
From the players, I mean.
Yes. Yes, because what's happened is they've allowed here. You guys said something earlier, and to me, I think it's more than just not being able to figure out how to dig yourself once you go into a ditch, not how to get yourself out of it because you've been sailing so smooth. I think it's more this. I think it's more that things have been riding so well. The noise has been so light. Nobody has done anything. Everything's been kumbaya. The first sign of failure, you're telling me you do this and you lose 4 or 5 and you have a complete organizational meltdown, well, then you weren't stable in the first place.
That's a good
because organizations, look at here, let's give the greatest example of it. Look at what Baltimore went through last year. They went through a quarterback who was potentially tanking and now wanting to play because he was pissed off about the way the contract was handled. Did they blow up on him? No. Did they lose their poise? No. They stuck with him, hung with him, only 2 teams. He had frightened so many teams off that only 2 teams had a half-ass interest in Lamar Jackson. Do you know what the Ravens did? Screw that. He's our guy. We're going to get him the best coach. We're going to hire the best players. They were traded for Roquan Smith. They did a great job in free agency. They did a great job in the draft. And look where they are now. They're top of the AFC, and they got an MVP candidate. That's how you dig your way out with culture. Instead, the Eagles, on the other hand, the first sign of failure, that thing's the Titanic. That's not a strong organization, Tone. Strong organizations pull themselves out of trouble when trouble rears its head.
I mean, just
Every
think
time
about
they rear their head, 3 years later, they're a 4-win team.
think about the way just they're structured, right? Just think about the people associated with that Ravens front office and the organization. And then think about the Eagles. I mean, it's like night and day.
Eric DeCosta,
They got some real
John Harbaugh.
Yeah, they got people with backbone over there. On the Eagles side, it just seems like they got people who are
Yes, men.
how can I put it? You're right about that, but also
They're
they
Pied
care
Pipers.
they care more about career advancement. It's like it just seems like whatever's going on with the Philadelphia Eagles, they know damn well what they're doing, but they just have their own agenda, and they're gonna do it the way they want to do it. Like you said something, you said something really key, right? They put the best people around their crown jewel,
You
and
bet.
Lamar Jackson.
John
and-
Harbaugh, Todd Monken.
And what
I'm
did
going like this.
and what did they do for Jalen Hurts? They surround him with Brian
No
Johnson.
disrespect, Brian. You're not qualified to be around a $50 million quarterback.
Not yet. Not
Hey,
yet.
how about this?
He didn't earn that.
You know what, though, too? To Brian's also, to him, Jalen Hurts wasn't ready for that $50 million quarterback money. Because you know why? And I'm going to tell you this. I'm not saying he wouldn't eventually be. I'm saying they have rushed that development of him. They've rushed the money. They rushed everything because they're projecting.
The money wouldn't even be an issue.
What he is.
The money wouldn't even be an issue because I don't really have a problem with the contract.
I do with 17 ball games because I don't know who he is.
The money wouldn't even be an issue really if they had a different view of how to develop a quarterback.
That goes hand in hand with that. What I'm saying, though, on the money, if you're going to give Jalen $50 million, you better bring in the top flight people that you could possibly have. Now, remember, when you bring a Todd Monken or you bring a Lovie Smith or you bring people like that, what immediately do they ask for? They ask for pieces that will help them develop that guy to the best of their ability. That means you're now playing in Howie Roseman's ballpark. Hey, I need this quarterback coach for him so that he can work on his skill set. Well, we don't know who he is. I don't fucking care. I need this guy. Hey, by the way, I need a third wideout so that we can do this maybe on bubble screens and this and that. And we need to do this. Hey, hang a minute. Whoa, wait a minute. Now you're playing in Howie's room. And so that becomes a problem. Coordinators want pieces to run their offense. You know what you're asking them to do when you come to Philly? Here's the pieces for you to run our offense, and you come in here, and here's the pieces. We want you to develop Jalen Hurts. So I'm going to develop Jalen Hurts with a first-year quarterback coach. Silsy's been in the building. Different roles, dude. If it affects a coach going from coordinator to head coach, it affects a guy being a quality control coach to being a quarterback coach, don't you think?
Right,
It all goes
and
hand in
vice
hand.
versa, yeah, and quarterback to OC. So yeah, like it's no, you know, you're no, I get your logic. Like it's you can't just assume because a guy was there, he's going to know what to do in this new role. You can't assume that. And then
What
that,
we see now with Brian.
and then everything else you said prior to that, right? About you know, it begs the question if if you knew you had a guy in Jalen Hurts that you believed in and you knew you wanted to pay him, you knew you wanted to invest in him, and you looked at him as your future, why not want to put the best people around him?
Control.
Why does your I'm glad you said that. Why does your need to control the situation trump
Credit.
the what's best for your overall asset?
Credit and control.
You feel what I'm saying? Like because
ego.
it has to be ego because you can't make the decisions Howie Roseman has made and then say he made them with zero ego. You know what I mean? Like you said, Todd Monken and who else they have over there, and like it just seems like they look at it as, look, we're building this thing. We all have our jobs. We're all going to get the credit we deserve. We all get Super Bowl rings at the end. You know what I'm saying?
Look at Denard
And-
Wilson, what he's done to the secondary.
Exactly.
We've been talking about it.
I think I honestly think Howie Roseman has began to I believe
Is
he's
it
starting to
Howie
smell stuff.
unraveling or is it the Eagles unraveling?
Well, I think we got here
Or is
because
it
he
both?
started. I think we're even here in the first place because he started smelling himself. I think they all started smelling themselves, really. Especially Nick and Howie. They just felt like last year could be replicated, and that's idiotic. To believe that everybody having a career year the way they did last year, it was unheard of. 70 plus sacks. Everybody had career years. You had like 15 Pro Bowlers or 10 Pro Bowls on your roster, however you want to slice it. I mean, it was just unheard of. And to think that defensive line could replicate what they did the year before, to think that you wouldn't need to continue to nurture Jalen Hurts' development, to think that you didn't need more experience because you were that close, to think that you can just front office your way through this 2023 season is insane. It's been miscalculation after miscalculation after miscalculation. I don't care what anyone says. I strongly believe that.
Doug Peterson and his firing is direct reflection of what is in the building today. In the fact that what you just said about Hurts, it's like the old thing that people used to say about paying a quarterback. Why would you pay a quarterback? And this is back in John Elway's day, when Elway had no line back in the day before Mike Shanahan showed up and Alex Gibb. When they had a $10 million quarterback and they had a 5-cent O-line, what's the point on paying the quarterback $10 million when you're not going anywhere because you haven't built the infrastructure of your team correctly? So what did they do? Mm-hmm. They fired Dan Reeves. They put Mike Shanahan in there. They got a running game going. They hired the greatest O-line coach in the NFL's history, and Alec Gibb, with his own blocking, and they went back-to-back Super Bowls. And there's a reason you put quality people and great teachers and coaches and evaluators. Remember something, dude. In the NFL, there's 46 guys on a roster active on Sundays. In college football, there's 100. Okay? You can put guys in and out, rotate guys. You've only got 46 dudes, Tone. 46 dudes to work with. Most of the time, the money, it hamstrings you into, once he's there, you got to play him. That's why when people are going, hey, we got to need a quarterback, so let's just move off of Bradbury. Man, not so fast, French fry. You ain't getting off that guy with that cap hit.
I mean, you can get off of him, but you gotta be willing to take that cap hit.
But that's Howie's wallet. So you gonna take money out of Howie's wallet?
Listen, he took a cap hit. How big was that Carson Wentz cap hit? 40 million?
$38 million. That's a quarterback. But what they got in return was a first-round draft choice. Remember, it was a contingent pick with the Colts that it made it better that they were able to get a first-round draft choice. Was that pick Jalen Carter?
No, that wasn't Jalen Carter. That was I think they traded that pick for something to move up, or I can't remember, but nonetheless, that's a good point. It did soften the blow of that cap hit.
Now, you ain't getting a 1 for Bradbury.
No, you'd be lucky to get a 5 or a 6. So, all right, let me ask you this then, because I want to talk constructively now. What's the next? Okay, I think this season we pretty much have an idea for what the outcome's going to be. What's the first move? Come the off season. What's the first move?
I think you have to have a fundamental philosophy.
If you're in control, what's the first move?
I think you're looking at it in the micro here. I think you have to look at it organizationally. And I think you have to do this. Why are we from year to year going from here to here? What is the issue? Are we valuing positions? I think they have to go back and look at this. Okay. And if you want to be, hey, let's be smart and not act like them. This is what I would do.
Right. That's what I mean.
Okay.
What would you do?
Well, here's what I would do. Okay. We're fundamentally not strong at drafting linebackers, and we're fundamentally not strong at drafting corners. Okay. Edge rushers too. Running backs, we're kind of decent. We're not great. We're okay. We're great at tight ends. We're great at O-line. We're great at D-tackle. I would say this. Let's draft tackles, all offense, defense, later round running backs. I would look at potentially a 3rd or 4th round in the draft. But then I would look at, okay, how many draft picks do I have this coming year? 12? Something like that? It's like 12 picks, right? I would say, hey, Carolina, get this, you got a 26-year-old defensive end they've been dying to move. I would say this to them. Brandon Graham, he's out. I would do this to you, Tone. Okay, Brian Burns. Carolina, look what they shit a brick on. To move up to get Bryce Young, Chicago now has the number 1 overall pick from Carolina. And they now are the number 1 pick. They don't even get the benefit of having a first-round pick now.
They have 9 first-round picks.
How many?
9.
You have, okay. Carolina needs equity for a new coach.
Right.
Brian Burns, how much is that going to cost? I'm not saying get him. I'm asking, how much will that cost me? The Devin White thing, I would take a look at that and go like this. I need an experienced 26-year-old captain of a Super Bowl winning team. I could have a linebacker in the room like Roquan Smith. Hey, dude, if it's good enough for the Ravens, it's got to be good enough.
And that's my thing. Like,
it's got to be good enough for the Eagles.
Why does Howie Roseman in this team, this organization, believe that they're just above the linebacker position? What is and that has to be ego.
And again, this is what I would do. I would look at Devin Smith and go, pay him between 15 and 20. If I could have a guy in the building for 10 years, don't you understand, Tone? Every year he starts and every year he's productive, you get the value of the contract. Like, look at Hassan Reddick. That $15 million, do you think he's overperformed that contract? No question. 27 sacks in 33 games. I'm sorry, dude. Right. That's your problem that you're dropping him in coverage. Right. When he rushes the passer, he's everything I paid for.
All right. And Devin White, you bring him in, he's helping you in the passing game and in run defense. So
absolutely.
Why not invest in a guy like that? He's
solidifying your tackle play too.
And he's going to solidify your tackle play. He's going to make sure everyone's where they're supposed to be. You're not going to see you're barely going to see missteps in that defense.
And he can cover tight ends.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you're bringing in this multi-dimensional piece that they keep trying to ignore.
Instead of piecemealing garbage cans, why don't you get a true Roquan Smith type ball player in the building?
And the heart of your defense. The heart of your defense.
If you don't even want to do that, maybe a guy like that's productive, like that, and maybe not as expensive. I like duplicating what dudes look like. If a dude plays like Roquan, he's in a good system, he's in a great organization, they develop players, I'll get a guy that kind of looks like him.
Right.
Here's another position.
The off-brand, right?
Yes. Right. Like the knockoff Viagra pills, like something like that. That's what I want. I want knockoff Viagra pills. I don't want $100 pills. I want to get them $2 pills.
Oh, my
Here's
goodness.
something else I'd do. Okay? Here's something else I would do. I'd go to Arizona. Hey, how's that Buda Baker guy doing?
He's a Pro Bowler this year, so the prices went up.
Well, guess what? My defense went down.
Hey, I'm with you.
Okay, so you start looking and they're going, well, wait a minute, Sills, we got to pay the quarterback $50 million. Well, hey, you want to play big ball money? You want to play in the ballpark here? Okay, well, shit, you got to pay your quarterback. You can't rob Peter to pay Paul and think you're going to be effective. And this goes to what Jeff Kerr says about
and
the
also,
swings
and
and
also,
the
you got
beats.
to be willing to take risk. They don't take enough financial risk. And what I mean is, like, it seems like, there's nothing wrong with thinking, 5, 6 years ahead. But sometimes I feel like they live too much in the future. Sometimes I feel like they need to really lock in on and commit to themselves. Okay, we're investing in the next 3 years, and we'll figure it out after that. I feel like every time a new year comes around, they're thinking 4 or 5. Like Howie Roseman is always trying to think about the next thing.
The money.
Instead of yes,
it's not the players.
And sometimes, and like you said, just how you can get too caught up in the macro, and you got to focus on the macro. Sometimes Howie Roseman gets too caught up on the macro and doesn't focus enough on the micro, and that's leading to them not investing in that position, and why there's so many ebbs and flows. Like, I think I like they're so concerned with trying to manage this checkbook, and it's like, yo, are you trying to win Lombardi trophies or not?
No,
you got to make your mind up. Like this city cares more about just being relevant. This city cares more about just being in the playoffs. And the Eagles want to win Lombardi trophies. It's almost like
this is what makes it frustrating.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating.
It is. This is what I told you what I would do. Now, this is what I think they'll do. They're going to go into the offseason and they're going to make the micro changes at coordinators. And there's going to be an overhaul. No matter how far they go, there's going to be an overhaul because there's too much of a stink that's in the building, and the players will feel better that at least there's an effort to change and get a deodorant inside the locker room. You see right now, Tone, they need to have a new deodorant in the locker room. There's a stench in there. And what they need to do is they're going to bring in Frank. Now, depending on what Frank's financial situation is, he may just not want to come back ever. Right. Okay? He just may never want to come. He's got $65 million now. I mean, that's going to be quite a putt for you. I mean, I talked to my friend Ed Ogeron. Ed Ogeron's been offered numerous coaching jobs. LSU gave him $42 million out the door. He goes, Sills, you think I'm coaching again? I went, I go, Coach, you're going to be chasing skirts till the day you die. and I just can't see that guy ever coaching again unless it's the right situation. So there's that dynamic there. And plus, Frank's worked for two of the shittiest owners in the history of the league. I mean, if I'm an owner, I wouldn't have a problem looking at Frank as being an – remember, you're not asking Frank to come in and build your team. You're asking Frank to come in and build your offense. And that's one thing he's great at. Remember, Shane Steichen worked for him, okay? He's one of the guys he developed. He developed Sirianni. He developed all them guys. Gannon and all them guys worked for him at one time or another. Those guys were all in it. Mike McCoy is another guy down in Jacksonville. Anyway, here's what I think they'll do. They'll bring in coordinators. They'll bring in people that the players in the locker room will feel better about. But still, and they'll still keep their fundamental formula. My question will be this. Will the analytics department, will the owner change any philosophy on how they value positions? Now, here's the thing with DeAndre Swift. So DeAndre Swift just made himself unavailable for the Eagles with their philosophy that they have had. He is the most.
He's not coming back.
He has no future in Philadelphia unless they change.
Unless what?
Well, unless they have a philosophical change at that position Because here's what, you know how much money he's going to cost you?
You gotta
How much money do you think that guy's going to get on the open market on being a Pro Bowl running back and being the second best running back in the NFC to McCaffrey?
Well, right now McCaffrey is making
18?
He's making 15 a year on average.
Okay.
On average. And
about half.
And then you have guys like Saquon, and you have guys like Alvin Kamara. I don't think he's not making 12.
He's not making 12,
but that's where I was actually going to say I think he's going to, because I'll put it this way. Miles Sanders is making 6.1, 6.2. Right. I think, depending on the market too, but market independent, I think he's going to make around, he can command maybe $7 to $8 million a year.
Okay. Historically, that's not happening. Now, do you want to bring a guy like that back, or do you think that you're quality enough to go out in the market? And are you going to hire who? Dalvin Cook? I still think Dalvin Cook's got something left, but are you going to gamble that you're going to go out and find a guy who's going to put up 1,000 yards and 50 catches for you again? And again, Tone, here's the Jeff Kerr comment. The inconsistency is you gamble on production with your risks that you go out in the free agent market with. And you're gambling on whether you're going to hit or miss. Last year was so unprecedented with all the career years that this year you have guys, again, not having career years that were the free agents.
Do the Eagles gamble more than any other team?
The inconsistency in his tenure as being GM.
Let me ask you this. Does Howie Roseman gamble more than any contending GM that you could think about in the NFL? Any out of the contenders, the teams that are really relevant, does he gamble the most on production?
He has to gamble
instead of investing on what he knows.
He does, but he has to, because you know why? The inability to draft positions that they need reflects that they have to be more productive in pro personnel. Let me look. The linebacker position, the corner position, the safety position have theoretically been a disaster in his time. It's been a disaster. And so what happens when you miss on Jalen Reagor? You go in free agency, or no, you go and make a trade for AJ. That was a stroke of genius because Tennessee was underutilizing him there. That was a good move. But AJ was a good player. No one thought that he would elevate. Great move, Howie. But then guess what Howie does? At the other end of that spectrum is Jalen Reagor. You could have had Justin Jefferson for 3 years on a rookie contract that money could have went into the defensive side of the ball. Instead, the last 2 years, you've paid $40 million. That $40 million could have been spent in linebackers and in safeties, and you're on a rookie deal where you're paying a guy $1.5 million. Instead, now you're paying $40 on a free agent. AJ is worth the money, but AJ costs the team its future in building the roster with the $40 million.
I'm willing to say Howie cost the team with his inability to evaluate the position. AJ, I think that's the root of it.
The money of the $40 million that they've had to pay AJ the last 2 years, bro, it could have went into linebackers and safeties. It could have been, you could have kept AJ.
You can't forget you draft Smitty. So it seems like he's always
on a rookie deal.
Right.
You're paying him nothing.
Doesn't always seem like he's playing. Doesn't always seem like he's on mop-up duty. Like Howie, he's always cleaning up something. He's always trying to.
He doesn't have an edge rusher, so what does he do? He lands on Reddick. Okay? He lands on Reddick. And now here's my question. If I'm Hassan Reddick, man, do I really want to come? Now, look, I probably don't want to leave because you know why? Every other place I've been, they didn't know how to use me. And when you're dropping me in coverage, boy, I'll tell you, it's the money, Tone, when you miss on the linebackers. Or you miss. Here, look at Howie. That guy they cut. Who was the guy they cut? They drafted in the third round a couple years ago.
Davion Taylor.
Okay, think about this. So you missed on him, and you passed on TJ's money.
Yep.
Look what you've lost. You lost draft pick in the third, and development, and you didn't want to pay $7. And then what did you do throughout the year? You paid $2.5 here, $1.5 here, $4.5 here, 5.5 there. It comes out to $7 million to me. You could have kept the goddamn guy, and you could have covered the loss at the third round that you had to cut the guy. Think of, again, the fact that you missing these drafts financially and economically affects the building of your team for being consistent. That's why you were talking earlier about the Niners. The Niners have a Pro Bowler at every level: D-line, linebacker, and defensive back. There's a Pro Bowler at every level.
Yeah, when you don't
built through the draft.
When you're not capable of building through the draft, you actually put yourself in more of a financial bind because you're forced to pay. You're actually forced to overpay for guys in free agency.
Who's your core guys on defense?
At this point, the core guys on defense are Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and
wow,
Fletcher's on the back end. So I don't know if should I count.
You know what Tony Dungy told me?
He's on the back end.
You have to have a core group of guys to build around when you go out and work for free agency. His core group of guys in Tampa that they built through the draft, different because salary cap wasn't, so it's different. I get it. But you had Sapp, Brooks, Lynch. You had Chidi Hanatu. You had all these guys that you had, Mike Allstott. You had guys that you had built through the draft that were a core 7 group of guys. Then you went out and got a Simeon Rice. Then you went out and got a Hardy Nickerson. Then you went out, and by the way, Rondé Barber was part of that core group. When you have all those kind of core guys, you can go out and sprinkle free agents in. The Eagles don't build a round foundation on the defensive side. That's why you
on the defense side, right? And that's their weakness. I mean,
but when you're not balancing your rosters, Tone, when you're not, it's not a balanced roster.
Yeah, you drafted Fletcher Cox, you drafted Jalen Carter, you drafted Jordan Davis, you drafted Josh Sweat. But that's years ago, right? But I want to focus on like the main, like the future, right?
But those guys aren't the core guys.
Who's your future? Anymore. And the future is Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter.
Yep.
And I honestly don't
know.
No
one else.
And I honestly don't know what Josh Sweat's future holds beyond his current contract.
I'm not giving up on him.
No. I'm a Josh Sweat guy. I just don't know what So I would keep
him around.
I would keep him.
I mean,
I'm a Josh Sweat guy.
Not doing anything with him.
Yeah, I think Josh Sweat. People might think I'm crazy for this, but I think Josh Sweat.
I think he's a Pro Bowl talent.
Has a higher ceiling than Hassan Reddick. People might think I'm crazy for saying that.
No.
I think he has a higher ceiling.
Nope. I think they've worn him out.
I agree. Okay. I've been talking about that for the past couple of weeks.
I think they've worn him out. Now, look, should he get criticism for not showing up and getting sacks? Yes. Okay. The whole unit should be. But then again, accountability comes in. Hey, they didn't prepare these. Here's another thing.
Real quick.
The defensive coaches did not prepare these guys, Tone.
I'm glad you said that. Let's
the amount of reps that they were going to have to take this year.
Exactly.
And those soft-ass practices that they had, they needed to be in better shape, and they needed to be in better conditioning if they knew that they were going to push these guys past their rep mark.
Yes, that's another issue. When you build your team, it's kind of like the Georgia Bulldog issue, right? When you build your team based off of the concept of rotating, when you build your defense based off of that, you have to make sure you can sustain that. Because if you don't have the personnel to rotate in, now you're putting your guys in a bind because you didn't condition them or prep them or put them in a situation where they're going to have to play 60, 70 reps a game. You didn't condition them for that. You never prepped them for that. It's a reason Josh Sweat has never played this amount of snaps before because he's always been a part of a rotation.
Howie got the equity when 22 guys lined up in the Super Bowl and played because they didn't practice that way. 10-1, And the 22 healthy guys created equity for him. But you got to remember something with Roseman that we now see his MO is. You gauge Howie Roseman on not what he's done. You gauge Howie Roseman on a year-to-year basis because every single thing he does is not for the future.
That's why.
Every year he does, according to Jeff Kurt, and he's right. Howie Roseman is a year-to-year general manager, and his teams reflect it.
That's why you have a fan base divided on Howie Roseman every year. Because if Howie Roseman was a great GM, it'd be unequivocal. It wouldn't be a debate.
Howie Roseman is
every
nowhere
year,
near Ozzie Newsome, and even to the extent John Lynch.
Every year there's a debate about if Howie Roseman is a good GM or not. Every year it changes every single year, and I think Eagles fans can attest to this. It changes every single year. You bring guys in, and you have a philosophy or a method to the madness about how you want to use your defensive line, but you don't position the roster in a way to sustain what you're trying to do. This defensive line was designed to rotate, and that started in the Jim Schwartz, Doug Peterson era. They were rotating defensive linemen. They were one of the first teams in this new era of the NFL to start really rotating D linemen all the time, keeping them fresh with the Chris Longs and the Timmy Jerrigans, the Fletcher Cox, who else? The Derek Barnett's, BG, Timmy Jerrigan, Benny Logan. It was a bunch of different guys. Vinny Curry. They were rotating guys around that time. They had a lot of body, so that was how they won. But now they want to try to keep that same philosophy, but don't have the personnel to sustain it. You move on from Derek Barnett, knowing you rotating guys. It didn't make sense, and you don't really replace them. You just go get a safety in Kevin Byard. So again, that's why a guy like Josh Sweat is moving the way he's moving. That's why Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, they come from a rotational defense.
That's right. Howie Roseman went, instead of replacing a pilot in an airplane, he replaced the pilot with a stewardess.
You know what I'm saying? It's like nothing's wrong about the guys. They're talented, but did you draft them keeping fully in mind that these guys have played in a rotation and their motor is not going to be as high?
Way of looking at building a team. It's really not a football view. He doesn't have a football view like Ozzie Newsome does. You know, Ozzie gets.
You know what I think? I think he just looks at this thing. You're right. I don't think he has a football bone in his body. I think he just looks at this thing as numbers, production, name, school. He's not really getting a feel for what situation these guys are coming from.
We start with the bank account.
Always.
Yes. All right, Tone. This has been great.
Of course, man. It's always fun. I appreciate you.
You bet, man. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, my friend. We're going to talk to Jason Cole, too, by the way. We're going to get his talk on Eric Allen's chances on making the Hall of Fame. I put his name on my panel list. I put Eric Allen on there. They're now voting. We'll know in a couple weeks who makes the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Jason Cole, Pro Football Hall of Fame voter. An NFL insider will join us next. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At Malamut & Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Who would have thunk that Jonathan Gannon and Kyler Murray are getting along? Kudos to Jonathan Gannon. Guy's actually turning out to be a better coach than Nick Sirianni. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Both assistant coaches are better than the guy that was in and left in charge. Pretty crazy. Just pretty. Hey, both the guys that I'm watching now. I mean, when you watch Shane Steichen coaching and you watch Jonathan Gannon coaching, they coach so differently than what they did a year ago. They had so many restrictions on them. Okay? Look at Joshua. Stop at Sills, 4 wins. Beat the fuck out of you. With the worst team in the league. With a team that has the 4th pick in the draft. Beat you up. Your so-called NFC defending champion team. Beat you up. Hey, all those things we said about Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen, were true. Because the organization, once again, with their mop-up Dooney PR department, sees to it. I will never again listen to anybody on the radio, on shows, ever again that covers that team and covers it one-sided because they're not being told the truth. They're being told what to say. I will never do that again. You stick to your opinion and you stay there because you'll be right in the end. I've been right about Sirianni the whole time. But then again, it's really not Nick's fault. It's just not his fault. It's not his fault. Look at this guy, the real here. All Sills does is sit here and spew hate on our football team. You don't hate what's going on? And you all yuck it up? He loves what's going on. Not allowed to be. He must work for the Eagles. That's the type of the fan base that they love the most. The real RMP, perfect fan for the Eagles. Don't ever question us. Don't ever say anything negative about that. Don't ever rip us. I hate the negativity the media continues to spew. They deserve it. I thought you were a city and a fan base that gave people great credit and gave people great hell when they don't produce. Or is that just picking on Ben Simmons? You took a shit on Ben Simmons. What's the difference here? When you see something bad, do you really think you shouldn't say it's bad? Or should you call them out on it? No. Start whispering. No. Shh. Big Bad Sills, man. He's saying bad things about my team. Let me get my binky. I got my Eagle binky in. Got my Howie knee pads on. I get my Howie knee pads on and my Howie binky. I can't believe Big Bad Stills. Can't believe how big bad he is. Some of you guys are soft as tissue, man. I like people that, hey, man. And hey, so before I bring Jason Cole in, this is why you always have to remember when you get an inexperienced coach and a guy's a bullshit artist. Here's a great example of it. So last week, and I'm going to say this before I bring Jason on, last week Nick Sirianni's given us this roundabout way about it. Well, we were hoping to get pass interference at the end of the Seattle game, and, we were hoping that maybe the play. And then A.J. Brown comes out yesterday and goes, "No, we made the play up. We improvised. Nothing like that happened." So that guy went on a diatribe the whole week, justifying that 3rd and 20 play in the Seattle game with a manufactured story. And then someone goes, well, he fell on the sword for his players and go. There was no need to put out a BS story for the media to make yourself look even dumber that you were trying not to have a play, but you were trying to get pass interference. This is why I tell you, always remember, coaches and organizations lie to you. It's your job to decipher the truth. Not everything these guys say is truthful. Because you know why? Here's a great example. Before I bring the Arthur Smith. You're my starting quarterback the entire year. Desmond Ridder, all of a sudden someone upstairs goes like this. Hey, your job's on the line. Tyler Heineke, you're starting this week. Let's bring in my boy, Jason Cole. And he dealt with a lot of guys. Did he just say what I thought he said? Did that coach just say what I thought he said?
I don't know how you would impugn the character of so many NFL coaches. How dare you say that a coach or an organization would lie to you and make up something that never actually happened? Like Sean Payton saying, "I don't handle contracts. I have nothing to do with.
I'm not benching
negotiating
him for money. I'm benching him for production." Now we find out 3 weeks earlier we want the rewording of the injury clause in your contract, or you were going to bench you. Oh, okay. How'd that work out?
Not well, because you're not supposed to use playing time as a negotiating tool. You're just not.
Do you think he's got a grievance with the Players Association?
I don't think it's a grievance he's going to win. Look, it's not a grievance you're actually going to win. Okay, but it's supposed to be an understood thing. And this is in the CBA, that playing time is just, you make decisions on whether guys play on merit. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Now, we both know that that doesn't happen, that, guys get close to, like if you're out of it, team's not any good and, you don't want to spend the money. Yeah, you hold back on guys getting the playing time and stuff like that. That happens a lot, right? Just like there are teams that reward players, like if you're supposed to get to like 90% playing time and you're on a good team, a guy gets to like 88 or 89%, a lot of times they'll pay out the bonus, right? Because, hey, look, it just didn't quite work out for you, but the intention was to get there, so we'll reward you. I think Reggie Wayne had a clause in his contract one time, and Jim Irsay paid him off, on it because it wasn't Reggie's fault they didn't get the 1 or 2 more catches he needed or whatever it was, and so they looked at that and said, "We're going to do the right thing by the player." But look, when you're a player, you need to understand when you put clauses in your contract that are dependent upon you having to play and perform in games. And if they're making decisions to move on from you, you're going to get benched, right? Like that's just going to happen. Like you have to understand that you built that into your contract. But technically, the team is not supposed to come to you and say, "We're going to bench you if you don't change your contract." They're not supposed to do that, but it's hard to enforce. So I don't think Russell wins anything, but it was a crappy way for the Broncos to do business. It's dishonest. Peyton should have just come to him and said, both Sean Payton and George Payton should have come to him and said, "Look, we're going a different direction. We're not going to do this. We're going to put you on the bench, and let's try and find a way to work this out amicably, and be honest with the player."
All right, let's move on to this. Jason, you still willing to walk out on that limb that you would take Jalen Hurts over Lamar Jackson?
Well, no, not based on how Lamar's played this year. Lamar's had a great year. Like he changed it. He changed the narrative. And I will say this. I was having this discussion with a guy who's a fan, not a media person or anything like that. But we both said it simultaneously. Lamar is now proved to be a better quarterback this year than I think he was even in his MVP year when he put up some outrageous stats. Like the ball placement, on certain throws, the decision making on when to throw, the decision making on I'm running to set up a throw first. And then if I have to take off and go get 6, 7, 8 yards or whatever, I'll do that. I'll still do that. And I'll get a big gain occasionally because he's still fast enough to get some big gains, right? But he's not living on his legs. He's living to set up the throws. And I'll say this, he's become more accurate.
Todd Monken.
Well, I don't know if it's Monken necessarily or if it's as much as he's now thrown a lot of passes, okay? As instead of like when he was at Louisville where he was a runner first and he'd throw it a little bit, and then, his first couple of years in the league, again, runner first, and now he's going to throw it. That accuracy has developed as he's thrown it more, which is, I would say, something to a lot of college quarterbacks. There's a value to staying in college and throwing a lot of balls. Right?
Brock Purdy.
Right. There's a great value to just getting a lot of passes in. Like those. Like the kid Penix.
Michael Penix, 4 years at Indiana, now at Washington.
Right, and he's got a funky motion that I don't really like, but is still, but he slings it and he's super accurate.
I love him.
Yeah, well, I didn't earlier in the season, but then I saw, I've seen him a couple more times, and it's like, okay, it's turning and turning. And then in this last playoff game, I was like, holy cow, what am I watching here? Yeah, but he had 500 throws this year.
Yeah.
500 throws. You get better. You see more. You throw the ball more. Lamar Jackson has now had, another 4 more years of throws to make, and he's played full-time this year. So, yeah, some of it's Todd Monken and the design of the offense. Give Monken credit for that. But some of it is the more you do something, the better you get at it. as you repeat it. And that's what Lamar's done. And so he's changed my opinion on it. I still like Jalen Hurts, but Lamar's now flipped it around and become better than him.
How about this, Jason? And, the reason I brought Monken up is that, okay, so check out what they did for him. Like you said, this guy was in the era of Mahomes. Brady was still active. Rodgers was active. You had Breeze still going, I think, at the time. When that guy won that consensus all MVP, unanimous MVP in 17. And all of a sudden, you're looking at that guy and you're like, okay, he's 26 now. He's better now. It's not so much numbers-wise. He's more impactful in games. So what did they do? They got a quality offensive coordinator and put around him so that he brought the best of his abilities out. In Philly, they went and got a first-year coordinator in Brian Johnson, who has never called a game professionally in his life, and they got a first-year quarterback coach, and they just paid a guy $50 million. You would think if your biggest asset in your building is $50 million and you're putting unqualified people around the quarterback. How about this? Let's go fair here. Inexperienced people.
Inexperienced people, yes.
Inexperienced people around your number one asset you're trying to develop. Why would you put lesser experienced people in the building next to your number one asset? Where in Baltimore, they went out and got a higher quality guy. They felt, and it's panned out to be the top seed and an MVP.
Right. And look, there's a value to it. Like with Peyton Manning, who's one of the guys almost his entire career? Tom Moore. Tom Moore was older than dirt when Peyton was a rookie, right? And was with him for almost his entire career because Tom Moore had seen everything, right? And
yeah, he survived. He survived the first coach there, the playoff guy, when they got Tony Dungy in there. He was the only guy that really survived.
Yeah, I'm not sure where
Jim Moore. Jim Moore Sr. was the coach, I think.
Yeah, Jim Moore Sr. was the coach, made the playoff remark. They fired him. They brought in Tony. Tom Moore, who, like Tony knew Tom Moore from years before. And I don't know if Howard Mudd was there already, but you always had older, experienced guys. Like Howard Mudd understood, okay, here's the offensive line play, and this is how it's supposed to work with the quarterback, right? This is the footwork that the quarterback needs to do to make the offensive lineman, effective, and this is how we're supposed to run it, along with Tom Moore calling plays and helping out. And look, if you ever met Tom Moore and didn't know what he was, you'd go, who's this mumbling old man, right? And it's right. But that man's an encyclopedia.
He's like Gertie Zampese.
Right. It's like, he's not a head coach type of guy, but he knows everything backwards and forwards and can tell you about plays probably from when Sid Luckman played, right? Yeah. So, you need to have those guys a lot of time. It's like one thing that young head coaches,
hopefully we're able to connect here with Jason here. But he's right about Tom Moore. Tom Moore was with Peyton almost for a full decade. When he was developing his opportunity to become a Super Bowl style coach. Are we still frozen a little bit here? I think we're still frozen here a little bit. Okay, so let's see if we can get Jason Cole back with us here in a second here. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of the conversation and a narrative that we've been talking about when you're talking how the Ravens went out and they put quality people around it. By the way, look at what also they did personnel-wise. They kind of went down the line of what the Eagles did. They went out, got Odell Beckham. They turned around, and would you not agree? Right, Tone? Think about what they did in Baltimore. They basically duplicated what they did in Philadelphia in Baltimore. They went out, got Odell Beckham. They drafted Zay Flowers. They brought in a high-powered coordinator, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. And to what Jason was talking about, when you have quality offensive coordinators, right, Jason, you're going to be able to move the sticks. And it's important to have people like that in the building.
Yeah, look, as I was trying to say before this whole thing broke down, unfortunately, but one of the great pieces of advice that Sean McVay got when he first took over as a head coach was hire a couple old guys on your staff who aren't afraid to tell you, the truth, and probably have been head coaches. Who was his defensive coordinator when he went to the Rams? Wade Phillips. Wade
Right.
Phillips had been around, seeing everything. Told him, like, you're going to run into this. It's not the first time any coaches run into this. This is how we handled. This is how it was handled wrong in this place. This is how it was handled right in this place. Here's some suggestions. Here's some ideas, and that's better than, like, the experience just tells you how to handle situations, how to handle players. And yes, the Eagles would have benefited if they had said, we're going to bring in a young guy like Brian Johnson, who we think is going to be a great offensive coordinator, but we're going to make sure that the quarterback coach is an older guy, or vice versa.
Alex Van Pelt, bring a guy like that in as a quarterback coach, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, again, part of it is you have to know the scheme too, and there's some of that. You got to know what kind of scheme are we running. What do we want Jalen to be comfortable with? How are we trying to progress? And where is he in the progression of, okay, we're at point A in year 1 or 2. We're at point B in year 2 or 3, right? We want to get to this point. And that's, again, part of the Lamar Jackson development that you talk about, is the things that he's doing now, he couldn't do 4 or 5 years ago because he wasn't ready to do them, okay? There are parts of your career, and he got there. Right? Like, I had doubts about whether he would get there. He got there. Like, normally guys don't get more accurate in their career. This guy has. Josh Allen has gotten more accurate. Now, what Josh Allen hasn't done is he hasn't learned to peel back and, like, stop taking so many risks. And I've been hearing from Bills fans, like 2 weeks ago, before Lamar Jackson had the 5-touchdown outing last week. Bills fans were ranting about, Josh Allen has 40 touchdowns. Where would we be without Josh Allen? This and that. I said, yeah, but he's got like 3 interceptions in negative territory in losses that cost you points. And they're like, well, we left the field with leads. Okay, it doesn't matter if you left the field with a lead and then the defense gave it up. You gave up points earlier in the game, and that changed the situation and the outcome of the game. So like Josh Allen, for all the great things that Josh Allen does, there are still moments where he makes mistakes that put you in a bind, and you have to deal with that for a young quarterback, and he has to get through that.
I want to take you in this direction here on Executive of the Year, and I think it's between 2 guys, John Lynch and Eric DeCosta in Baltimore. And let me kind of go on here on both on why I think those 2 guys are the guys. I mean, if you go last year in Baltimore, conversation if Lamar was going to play in the postseason, if he was going to play, he was 95%. He was bitching about his contract. There were only 2 teams that kind of casually contacted them. They gave him the money. They brought in all these people. They brought in Beckham. They get Zay Flowers. The guy's an MVP. They're the number 1 seed in the AFC. They dug out of a mess. Look at what Lynch dug out of. Future of the team on the line with those 3 first-round picks, with Trey Lance disaster. Kyle Shanahan coaches his ass off. This guy Purdy's probably going to finish 2nd or 3rd in the MVP voting. That football team's the number 1 seed in the NFC. They dig themselves out of that. And now you're looking at 12 Pro Bowlers with alternates when it comes to the 49er roster. Who do you think has done a better job at putting his team in a position to potentially win a Super Bowl? Eric DeCosta in Baltimore or John Lynch in San Francisco?
That's a tough one, man. That's a really tough one. But I will say this. DeCosta and probably the organization, Bisciotti too. And
Ozzy's still a consultant.
And Ozzy's still a consultant. And so there's a lot going on there, right?
Yep.
That they never made this a war with Lamar. And they never got into a public spat with him. There were times where there were leaks and things like that Lamar didn't like.
And it so easily could have went off the reservation, off the rails.
Well, it usually does go off the rails. When it gets nasty like this, right? Because there were so many opportunities to get nasty when you get to the franchise tag, right? Like, oh well, he's not that good. He's this, he's that. You can say the wrong things. They kept it really tight there. Of look, we're going to allow this to play out, but we're not saying anything other than Lamar, go do what you need to do. Right? Like, we understand what your position is. You feel you need to be compensated this way. We understand what it is. You want this. We're offering this. And those normally in this league, that becomes such high melodrama. It gets out of control and splits.
I can't believe both have been rewarded, Jason.
Right. And so in this situation, they allowed something to play out. And they didn't press the panic button and say, oh, well, let's give in to the player and give him whatever he wants, or get this done early to avoid it, which so many teams do. Like, Cincinnati did it with Burrow, the Chargers did it with Herbert. Most teams, will pay up front. They said, look, we believe in this kind of a contract. You believe in this. We understand there's a difference here. We're not willing to budge on that. And especially when you're dealing with a player who technically doesn't have an agent, right? Is
his
represented.
Mom.
Yeah, he's represented and driven by his mother and being in charge of this. Like, do you know how many different ways that thing can go sideways?
Most of the time when you're in an arbitration type style of conversation, you've got to be negative about your son to the mom, and you're negotiating. What a tough position. Hey, usually when you're talking to Drew Rosenhaus or Jimmy Sexton and you're talking to guys like that, you could be an asshole, Jason. But when you're talking to the player's mom, you're like this. Good night. What a tough position to be in, to try to negotiate down and get a fair – I mean, an enviable situation they must have been in all year with that.
Right, and they had to play. This is a very delicate situation. So I give DaCosta the credit for never letting the frustration, or never letting the circumstances, never letting that overtake the larger goal of, he's our quarterback.
Yeah.
We're going to figure this out. We're going to pay him. We're maybe not going to pay him exactly what he wants, but he's going to be happy at the end of it. And he's going to have to go through this whole process in order for him to understand what we're offering. And in the meantime, he's got to be totally on board, totally bought in, not feel negative about us. And then we have to go out and make this thing work. At the end of the day, he's come out an even better player. This is the best version of Lamar Jackson I think we've ever seen. And I know people say, look at the stats from 2019 or whatever the MVP year was, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you right now, as a quality football player to run most situations, this is the best version of Lamar Jackson we've ever seen.
Jace, I don't know what it is, man, but boy, I'll tell you what, the Harbaugh's on the football world right now.
Maybe two titles.
Jim Harbaugh may win the national championship, and John Harbaugh may win a Super Bowl here in the same calendar football season. And I would say this to you. I mean, I think John Harbaugh may be the most underrated coach in the NFL. And Jim, the market for him, especially with all the BS going on at Michigan, I mean, how don't you pay if you're Los Angeles and the Chargers and he's got a relationship with the Spanos family? How do you not? And since they fired Tom Telesco, and that's been an organization going all the way back to Alex Smith or AJ Smith, going all the way back to him, they've been kind of a centric GM organization and head coach kind of guy. But now you've blown that all out. Do you think they're making room for this guy to have control? And can you imagine him with Justin Herbert? I mean, or even him with Josh Allen in Buffalo.
What about the relationship between the Raiders and Harbaugh?
Tremendous.
Yeah, Michigan guy, Brady's,
Oh, Tony's got a little percentage of the team there.
Well, not yet, but technically,
You think he'll be a hot commodity?
Oh my God, yes. Like he's got 3 bidders. He's got Michigan's begging to keep him, right? And they've got all the money in the world. The Chargers, we'll see if they open up the pocketbooks. Mark Davis will open up the pocketbooks.
But they still have that lawsuit out there with the
Whatever.
Gruden thing.
But just remember this with Mark Davis. Mark Davis doesn't care about the money. Okay? He doesn't care. Okay? He cares about winning. Now he doesn't know how, all right? But he'll throw money at a situation. He threw money at Gruden. He threw money at McDaniels. He'll find a way to throw money at people to solve a problem because he
How about
doesn't
David
know.
Tepper?
Dave Tepper will throw money, but I think the problem with Tepper is probably almost as psychotic as Jim.
Can you imagine those two guys in a meeting? Jim Harbaugh and David Tepper.
Jim would throw hands in a heartbeat if Tepper.
Those two guys would look like a WWE wrestling match talking about who the draft in the third round.
There is a great story about Harbaugh at Stanford. They were playing like 2-on-2 basketball, some of the coaches, and at a certain point it started to get kind of physical. And instead of 2-on-2 basketball, it was one guy backing the other guy down every single time. And it's like, I don't know which coach it was, but it was like a linebacker coach or something like that. Some guy on the staff, and him and Harbaugh are just like throwing elbows at each other, backing each other down. It's not even basketball. It's just a brawl on the court. And that's with one of his own guys, right?
It's wrestling hoop.
Yeah, it's wrestling hoop. So, Harbaugh and Tepper, I don't know who's a good match for Tepper right now. I think Tepper's going to have to learn a lot of really hard lessons. Sort of like, I get the feeling this is like George Steinbrenner in the early days with the Yankees, where
George won.
No, not early. Not early.
He bought the team in 73, and he took him 3 years to win because he won in 76.
It took him 3 years.
76, they got swept by the Reds. In 77, that's when they won it.
Yeah, no, it took them a while to figure it. It took George a while to figure it out.
It did.
I think
he got suspended in there too prior to that, just for the Nixon stuff.
Yeah. So in any case, I just think it's going to take Tepper a while because football will beat you up.
Yeah.
Because not only do you lose, like in baseball, at least you play 7 games a week, right? And you're going to probably win a few of those, right? 1 or 2, right? And so you feel good after the wins. In football, when you lose, it bakes you for a week, right? If not an entire offseason. And that's part of the problem with Tepper because he's so impetuous. Like throwing a drink at a fan. Like, what are you doing? Just you're the owner.
As my bosses say, why punch down?
Right. It's I always love do you remember in Last Dance where Jordan's talking about getting in the fight with Kerr, and he goes, "I feel like this big because I just punched the smallest guy on our team." Right? Like what? And he loves Kerr because Kerr, Kerr stood up to him and all that other stuff. And they're both tough guys. They're both.
I actually like Steve Kerr because he's got an opinion.
Yeah, Steve Kerr's not willing to back down from anybody, right? And that's a great thing, even though he's a small guy. But Jordan's like, why am I punching Steve Kerr? What am I doing?
Right.
Dave Tepper, why are you throwing a drink at a fan? What are you doing?
From your owner's box, it's like sitting on the throne throwing grapes at people. I mean,
it's so
Jason, he's like throwing strawberries from his throne, and it's so condescending.
It's such a bad look. Like, and this is a guy who already, like, people in Charlotte are starting to catch on to like his game. If they didn't already get the whole problem with like the Rock Hill debacle and how he pulled a fast one on the people in Rock Hill and all the other stuff that he's done. But like they're starting to sit there and go, look, dude, you ain't winning.
Hey, Jerry Richardson was a tool, but at least he won.
At least he won, and also, by the way, Jerry Richardson was one of them, right?
Yeah, right.
Tepper is a carpetbagger
Throwing
in that town.
grapes at fans.
Right. He's a New Jersey carpetbagger, Pittsburgh guy. Like, it's the Civil War all over again with Tepper leading the way as a
God.
Yankee. Like, it's a bad deal for
Hey, Jace,
this
let me
one.
get to the Hall of Fame here.
Sure.
When you guys pare it down, now you pared it down. I saw your list.
Well, it's the list, yeah.
Yeah, it's the list. Okay.
Yeah.
And I saw it and I gave my opinion on it. And I gave my opinion to Jared Bell. I also did to Gosselin.
Mm-hmm.
And I did to Howard Balzer. And so I stuck to the same guys that I said, but I won't say. But I will say that what's the process now? Is there any communication with any of the voters, or do you guys take your intel, your gathering of information, and do you then take it to that meeting, and then you guys sit around like the Cardinals do trying to pick a pope? Is that how you guys sit there and doing it? Then we see smoke coming out from the Hall of Fame voters, and we know when we have Hall of Fame guys is we see the smoke coming out from the room.
Yeah,
the voters.
The airport Marriott in Atlanta, there'll be a little smokestack with the white smoke coming out. Yeah.
We have candidates.
Yes, yes. I think it goes like that. I'm pretty sure.
Do you guys get fed?
Yes, we get
when
fed.
you're in there. Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah. It's a nice lunch, nice breakfast. The whole thing. It's catered.
It's breakfast and lunch. You're in there.
Yeah, breakfast and lunch. And it's not, it's not out of the vending machine or anything like that.
Okay, good.
It's better than the vending.
So you're not getting a Jersey Mike's. You're getting actually a decent meal when you're in.
Hey, Jersey Mike's is not so bad.
I know. I'm with you. I like Jersey Mike's.
Okay, yeah.
I like it too.
I take a Jersey Mike's sandwich for lunch. That's okay.
I'm good.
Yeah. So, look, there's a lot more information to come in, but there's no discussion among us that's formal. Are there guys calling other voters and saying, hey, what do you think and stuff like that? Yeah. In the past, have there been sort of coalitions of voters working together to get a certain guy in? Yeah, that's happened.
That's what I mean by politicianing. Is there politicianing?
Look, the whole process is politics. Okay. Now, how formal or informal it is, it sort of depends on how of your view of how politics works. But yeah, there have been plenty of times that guys have asked me, well, what do you think about this guy? What do you think about that guy? And I'm honest.
Have you ever been asked this, Jason? I'll vote for this guy if you vote for this guy.
No, I've not ever been asked that. I've been
told that
I have been told that went on in the past. Edwin Pope told me stuff like that would happen, and it's cringeworthy. Love Edwin's was the Pope, to speak to the Cardinals, right? So
he was one of my dearest backers, and him, the guy in Tampa too, were two of my dearest friends.
Tom McCune.
Tom McCune and him loved Dan Sileo, and my God, did I love Edwin Pope. My God Almighty, covered my entire career, and he was such a god, man. Him and Tom McCune. I just love those two.
They were great. But I'll say this. Some of that has existed in the past. Does it exist now? Not that I've ever heard of. But I also think that most guys they know me well enough that they wouldn't come to me with that proposition because they know I wouldn't be into it. Like, I don't want to trade favors like that. Okay. I'll tell you, I know that there's certain guys who support certain candidates this year, and they support other candidates, right? And sometimes I like this candidate and I don't like this candidate. And I'm willing to tell a guy, yeah, I like the candidate you're supporting over here, I'm good with. The candidate you're supporting over here, I'm not as good with. And I'll be honest with guys about that and say, look, it's hard for me to overcome. It's hard for me to come to voting for this guy because I just don't see it. And I'll tell guys that straight up. And I think that they know from that, like, I'm not a horse trader that way. the other thing about it is, for me, is I'm not speaking up on behalf. I'm an at-large voter, no pun intended, but I'm not affiliated with any city, so I'm never openly doing the introduction for a guy, right? So like, I'm not sitting and presenting, you know, this candidate. Now there are candidates I obviously like more than
I
some
think
other
Howard
candidates.
Balzer's like that too.
He's a St. Louis guy, so I think. Yeah,
No,
well,
he's a Phoenix guy now.
now, but does he do the Cardinals or does he
He
do
does
the
the
Rams?
Cardinals. He works
Yeah.
in that market, but I don't know if he's the beat writer, because I think, don't you have to be the beat writer, or at
I don't
least
know.
the editor?
Like, it's all cloudy now because media's changed so much.
Yeah,
But Howard was a presenter. I don't know if he still is a presenter.
he was in St. Louis. I know that, for
He
both
was,
the
yeah,
Cardinals and Rams.
right. And he's presented Torrey Holt multiple times.
Well, he's pimping. He's pushing. He asked me, do I think Torrey Holt is a Hall of Fame player? And I said, I do. I think he and Reggie. And listen, for me with Andre Johnson's the better player. But
right.
Reggie Wayne is the more accomplished player. And so.
And Holt is accomplished too.
And Holt is right. And Torrey Holt is accomplished and was on one of the best offenses in pro football. See, that to me, you've got to be unique to be in a conversation for that position to be. Something has to separate you. And I'm not talking about making all-decade teams. And I know that's important, all pros and all that. But to me, like, I saw Rodney Harrison, and I'm like, Rodney Harrison has 2 Pro Bowls. If Rodney Harrison belongs on that list, how in the hell is Jack Tatum not on that list? Jack Tatum was 10 times the more decorated college, pro, and more intimidating, and played on a unique team with that Raider team with Madden than Rodney Harrison will ever be. But because Rodney's on TV, Rodney Harrison, and because he didn't paralyze anybody, Tatum's not going to get the justice that he deserves. Tatum is more of a Hall of Fame candidate than Rodney Harrison. Name me one thing Harrison's done better than Jack Tatum.
Well, from a numeric standpoint, like, I'm not here to argue the case of Rodney Harrison, right? So let's just start with that.
Okay.
But Rodney Harrison is a 30-30 guy with sacks and interceptions. So he's got some numerical accomplishments.
That I didn't know.
Yeah. So there are some things with Rodney Harrison, and there are some Super Bowls in there, which Tatum has as well. So look, there are some things that work. There's a reason Rodney Harrison made the final 15. Will he make the 5?
I didn't realize the 30-30 thing.
Yeah, and so
because that's what got Rondé Barber the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, and along with Rondé, played at a very high level. Look, I always compare Rondé Barber is, to me, a football version of Don Sutton.
Yeah.
Like, that guy took the field every week. He did his job every single week. He may not have been
9 innings from Don Sutton, and you're going to get 300.
You're going to get your
20 some odd, 320.
He's going to take the ball every 5 days, and he is going to pitch his ass off. And Rondé Barber's going to take the field.
Realize he's the all-time winningest Dodger pitcher.
I know. Trust me. I grew up in the
and Kershaw on it.
Yeah, no, but Sutton's up there. Sutton is the guy, but he's not nearly the electric pitcher of all the other guys. He ain't Fernando. He ain't Koufax. He ain't Drysdale. He ain't Kershaw.
None of that.
He's none of those guys. But he took the ball every 5th day. And Tiki, and God, why do I keep saying Tiki? Rondé took the field every week for a long, long time and compiled some numbers that go along with it to prove the quality of his play. And he was a champion as well. He checks a lot of boxes.
Over 20 INTs. He did something like that too.
But you would never look across there and say that's Deion Sanders.
No. But you would, like you said, he was a guy that showed up and put his lunch pail. Do you think Eric Allen is in that conversation?
Yes, absolutely. Eric Allen is in the conversation. The one box that he doesn't check is the title check.
Do you think it'll be close for him?
Yes, I think that he's going to be. I would I would guess, and this is purely a guess, and this is just not based on conversations with anybody else, because I haven't discussed Eric Allen with anybody else in the room. I've read stuff that people have sent me about Eric Allen, whether that's Paul Domowitch or other people who have sent me stuff. Paul does a great job,
Is Tom
helping.
presenting him?
Dom is presenting him. So Domo
Okay.
is doing that. Right. And Dom's going to do a great job presenting Eric Allen. He did a great job when he presented Sam, who's the linebacker? I'm trying to remember, who played with New Orleans.
Sam Mills.
Yeah, Sam Mills. He did a great job presenting the Philadelphia side, the Stars side for Sam Mills, right? So, like, Paul's going to do a great job on that, I anticipate. And I would place a small wager, if I read the room correctly, that Eric Allen will survive the cut from 15 to 10. And again, this is just inside my head.
I get it. I get it.
That he'll
No
survive.
problem.
The question is whether he goes from 10 to 5. And that's what I don't know. Like, and that one gets hard because we've got some guys like Antonio Gates is on there. And
I think
Julius
he's
Peppers.
a slam dunk.
He probably is. On my survey, I'll share
Has
right
there
now.
been
he's the number one guy.
another tight end quarterback combo that's had more touchdowns than Rivers and him?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Probably
Maybe
not.
Kelsey and Mahomes are getting up there.
Witten never played
Gronk
with
and
one.
Brady.
Yeah, I mean it's up there. Like just the fact of the matter is, Antonio Gates was a monster of an impact guy.
Was it better than Winslow though? Right?
No, Winslow's the archetype for a receiving tight end. It goes Winslow, Tony Gonzalez, Travis Kelce, Gronkowski, right? And Gronkowski's probably, when you put it all together, is the best overall because
I think he is.
Right, he's the best overall because he's going to mash you. But he's even great as a receiver. He's in the discussion among those guys.
He's got Chris Carter hands.
Right, and ran good routes. Like he's, like he can get over the top of you, right?
He was the most the only person I ever saw, Jason, ever defend him well was Ryan Shazier. He was the only, and when Shazier got paralyzed, they lost that seam cover guy, that Tampa 2 type of guy that Tomlin likes to run. They've never replaced that Ryan Shazier, and every time Gronk got in that game against the Steelers after Shazier was out, he crushed them.
Yes.
He just couldn't.
It took a special talent. He was going to overwhelm safeties and he's going to outrun the linebackers, the whole thing that we talk about all the time. But look, so I don't think Gates is in the discussion with those 4 guys for the greatest tight end of all time. But he is at the top of the next rung. And he is, he's a better player than Jason Witten. I think Jason Witten's a Hall of Famer, right?
Okay.
He's a better player than, Tony Gonzalez. And Tony Gonzalez was a first ballot guy. No question about it, right?
I think he's better than the guy Smith from the Cowboys and Cardinals.
Yeah. Right. I mean, was that Jerry or Jackie? I always get those guys
Jackie.
confused. Yeah. So, look, he's better than Ditka.
Yeah.
And Ditka's a first ballot kind of guy. So yeah, I think Gates goes in. So when you start talking about who's going to make the 5, like I think Gates has a strong case to be one of the 5. I think Julius Peppers has a strong case to be one of the 5. I think Freeney has a case to be one of the 5. He didn't get in last year. After that, it starts to get really dicey. And that's just my opinion. I think Patrick Willis has a strong case to be in that group too, but it's a short career. So we'll go through the process, and I could see where none of the 4 guys that I just mentioned get in. I doubt it, but I could see where none of those 4 get in, and we got five different guys that we're talking about.
I'm going to take you out of this, and one last thing here. It looks like some people are talking about this. Dalvin Cook may have signed with the Ravens. If that's true, I'll tell you this, Jason, I think he's got something in the tank left. I think it was a bad situation in New York.
Yeah.
If that's
it
true,
just fell,
Dalvin
it fell
Cook
apart.
signed
Not
with
his
the
fault,
Raiders.
not the Jets. Not his fault, not the Jets' fault. It just didn't work out.
So you put Dalvin Cook with Lamar Jackson now.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's some South Florida stuff right there. That's
Yeah.
that's a party on South Beach in your
I'll
office.
tell you this: if I'm the AFC teams, like if I'm Buffalo, I may have wanted that for my guy, and if I'm putting him next to Pacheco in Kansas City, I might have want to kick the tires on that a little bit too to give me another weapon.
I'm sure.
They're not really good at the perimeter.
Look, let's put it this way: Dalvin Cook knows what it's like to be a front runner. He's got yeah. He likes being a front runner, right? And,
Yeah.
that whole FSU career kind of got wasted. I think he ain't playing anymore. Like I'm not here for the camaraderie. I want some
FSU.
hardware.
Who gives a
I
shit
want
about
some. Well, yeah,
I'm talking about Stanford. Come on, man.
No, it's worse. They're traitors. They're traitors now. They're already trying to sue to get out of their conference.
See, I know why you're probably not going to put Aaron Rodgers in the first ballot Hall of Fame because he's a Cal guy. There's not a chance in hell you give that guy first ballot because he's a Cal guy. There's no way. There's no way. Then probably the reason that you don't look at Hardy Nickerson.
Let me describe.
You don't look at Hardy because Hardy Nickerson should be looked at, but you don't care because he's a Cal guy.
Hardware Nickerson was a hell of a player.
Look at the way you bail on that. He's a great player, but
Well, yeah, look, Rodgers going to make the Hall of Fame, and I'm going to vote for him. So let's just get that out of the way. But if
are you voting for Eli?
I got. I don't know.
When he got agita, I don't. Yeah, well, I don't know.
No, I look. I'm Trump. This is how I look at Eli, and and I've told you this before. The whole. He lived up to the bargain, and you win 2 Super Bowls. If you win 2 Super Bowls playing for the New York Giants, and you survive in that media market, because that media market will
give Plunkett songs in.
No, not necessarily. Plunkett. Look, I love Plunkett. Now you just brought up a Stanford guy that I want to have in the Hall of Fame that I can't justify because of the career, right? So you talk about the Stanford thing, right?
Heisman 2 winner.
Okay, I got a couple of observations here. A couple of things I got to say. With Eli, you deliver 2 Super Bowls with the Giants.
MVPs.
Yeah, and you play that well in the playoffs. Those are some big, big notches on your belt. Again, and I've said this on the show before, he played a lot of Sundays like he was rolling out of bed from the mega kegger, and you didn't know if you were going to get five picks or if you were going to get 5 touchdowns. You just didn't know what was going to happen, right? But the most important quality to that was it didn't affect him. There are a lot of quarterbacks who went to New York who did not survive the experience. Richard Todd, right? Crushed. This guys who went out there and Zach Wilson has been crushed by the New York media. Mark Sanchez, in a lot of ways, beaten down by the New York media because he couldn't handle it. Kind of a soft West Coast guy who could not understand the mentality of being a New York quarterback. Dave Brown, you remember that guy, got crushed. So to go out to New York and to play that way and to not let things affect you and just come out and go, hey, look, this is me. You may not like it on Sundays. You may love it. I don't care. I'm going to be me. We're going to win titles. We'll do this. And I'm going to make you competitive every year, but it may not look so pretty sometimes, right? Like that's a toughness. That's a mental toughness that I really respect. Is it good enough for the Hall of Fame? I'm still thinking, but it's probably going to be yes at the end of the day. It may not be right away. I don't know how it's going to play out. Let me add this last thought as for Aaron Rodgers. The rivalry between Stanford and Cal is different than it is between Miami, UF, and FSU. Miami, UF, and FSU literally hate each other, right? That absolute 1000% hate each other.
Can't
Okay,
stand the places.
right. It just you look down upon each other. It's the funniest stuff in the world. I love it. You cheat, on each other like
I
crazy.
don't care about the Gator Farm place. I hate I-75 because Gates
you don't care. Stanford and Cal are like two brothers fighting over a piece of pizza. Okay, we're the same institutions, right?
It's like fighting over blue books.
Correct. I'm not dismissing that. And you guys come to us when you need consultants to handle your money, who do you come to? You come to us. If you need engineers to build the stuff that you think about, you come to us.
I go to my friend Johnny Berkowitz.
If you need IT people who understand how to build computers, you come to us, baby. We build your stuff, and
I go to the nerd farm in Silicon Valley.
We get rich. You guys go play your football. Okay, have a good time. All right.
Hey,
but we fight over the last piece of pizza like we are brothers.
Last piece of pizza.
That's right, and you know what I'm talking about because you have people that you fought because you had a lot of pizza. I can tell that right now.
It's
come on, like Paisan. Come on, you know what I'm talking about.
It's like a nerd farm.
Name. Does your school ever had $1 billion in gifts every year? No, we do that because we know what $1 billion looks like.
I just had a bunch of people putting money in my pocket. I don't remember anything. I don't. I drove around in a Corvette and lived on Brickell Avenue. I don't know.
My new favorite story was about USC Trojans during the Reggie Bush years. And so the kids, the players would all park in the parking lot next to the Coliseum before games, right? And they'd roll down their windows like 2 inches. Okay. Right. Do you know what I'm talking about? They'd roll it down for two inches. And then when they won the game and whoever got big plays, like there'd be envelopes in their car. Right.
Oh, yeah.
The envelope gets slipped in. I was like,
guess what Rick Riley did? So Rick Riley shows up once at our at the Heck Center down in Miami. Yeah. And he walks in and we're all sitting there. I got a Corvette. Jerome's got a BMW. I mean, he drives in. He goes, this thing looks like a brand new car lot. I mean, every guy had a Caddy, a Beamer.
Absolutely.
Hey, Highsmith had a Jaguar. I mean, the whole Vinny had a scooter, which kind of saved it. I go,
everybody look at Vinny. Just go look at Vinny. Vinny's got a scooter.
Hey, man. Hey, real quick, before I let you go here, is this a crazy comment? Tom Coughlin was a better coach than Bill Parcells. Percentage-wise, did the same amount of Super Bowls. He invented and created great football down in Jacksonville. What Doug's doing now probably resembles that a bit. And the Giants haven't been the same. He did the same shit in New York that Bill did with the Giants, and he's got a higher win percentage.
I'll say this. Coughlin is just as accomplished as Parcells. Coughlin deserves to.
Is Coughlin a Hall of Famer?
I think so. I would love to see
think he is too.
I think he's behind in line. I would put him behind guys like Shanahan, Holmgren, and a Robert Kraft, who's not a coach, but he'd be behind those guys. But he deserves.
He's near Vermeil, like a Vermeil.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he accomplished everything Vermeil is. I just would say this. There's no way in the world Tom Coughlin could have ever gotten it out of LT.
Oh, no. Okay. You're right. There would have been a revolt.
Oh, there's no way. Coughlin would never have made LT the player that LT became.
No way. Dead on.
Not a chance.
Not a chance. I don't think he could have even got that. When they drafted Lawrence Taylor, Carl Banks and Gary Reasons and Brad Van Pelt, they had great linebackers, and they probably couldn't have sold that for bringing LT in because you had Parcells. Actually, it was Ray Perkins and Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick that sold that.
Right, but there's just no Tom
But
Coughlin.
Bill was the DC.
Yes, they had great staff. I mean, you have part of the two Bills, which is just an amazing thing. But Tom Coughlin, if forced to be the head coach of a team with Lawrence Taylor as your star player, it would have been a meltdown one way or the other.
Absolutely.
There's no way he could have.
I got to ask you this question.
Yeah.
Do you think the owner of the Eagles, Jeffrey Lurie, is a Hall of Fame owner?
I haven't thought about it. I don't know. I mean, when I say that, I really don't know.
Are owners the last people you think about when it comes to
you have
Hall
to be
of
really,
Fame?
You have to be really special. It's not just there has to be your team has to accomplish a lot, and
they're the winningest franchise in the NFC since 2000. Since he bought the team in '95.
I don't need qualifying. I don't need qualifying stats. I'm talking about, do you win championships? Are you a brand? Are you changing? Are you leading the league in some serious way? Like Jerry Jones and Robert Kraft are the two owners who drive the NFL, right? And
you got to be somebody like the Rooneys. What you're saying?
Yeah, you got to be somebody who has gravitas in the room and can really run the show.
You think the Glazers are?
No, the Glazers are. There's no.
They got 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, no. The answer is no. I mean, look, they're nice people. I like, when I talk to them, I think the people who rent property from them will probably disagree with me, but, and I think that the people in England might not take them very well. No. Not when it comes to how they've handled a soccer team. But look, they've done a nice job running their organization. Yeah, they've won Super Bowls, but what influence have they had on the NFL? What have they changed about how the league does business? Did they ever negotiate CBAs and keep peace to keep games going? Did they ever negotiate, television deals to keep things going? Did they ever put themselves out in front on how labor relations should go or shouldn't go and things like that? No, they've never done stuff like that. They ran their team and they ran it effectively. And I know Jeff Lurie's done a little bit more at the league level. I don't know if he's done enough at the league level.
Jason, it's been awesome, my friend. I appreciate it, my friend. I can't wait to see what happens this weekend in Week 18. Thank you so much.
Anytime, dude. Be good.
You got it. All right, that is our good friend, and we love Jason Cole so much. Please hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At Malamut & Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, Select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats. Then do what you usually do on a Sunday. Watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Alvin Cook to the Baltimore Ravens. Eric DeCosta strikes again. What an absolutely sensational general manager. Wow. What a great GM that builds culture. Consistency of winning. The way they do business. Don't be snowed by the fact that they were in Shitsville, New York Jets. Plus, they got a pretty good backup there now. And when you got a guy by the name of Zachary Taylor Wilson as your quarterback, and the stupid decision making not to pick the phone up and call Joe Flacco back, it just shows you how incompetent that organization is. Joe Douglas. Hey, Joe, you did all the proper things at other positions, except the most important position in the locker room, the quarterback. I mean, come on now. How you doing, Eric DeCosta? What a GM. Instead, okay, Baltimore does. See, Yale's right. Baltimore doesn't need Cook. Baltimore wanted Cook. That's when you know you're good. I don't really need him, but I'll take him. The Eagles don't value the position. They weren't going to sign Dalvin Cook. You kidding me? Why would they sign Dalvin Cook? They look at the running back position as a door sweeper. They don't give a shit. Remember, they're not paying Swift anything right now. He's making, what is he, still on his rookie deal? Traded a 4th rounder for him? And now that guy's a $7 million a year guy. How you doing? Goodbye. So you got him paid. That's one thing you got to say for the Eagles. They'll get you paid. Unfortunately, it won't be with them, but they'll get you paid. Damn. Dalvin Cook to the Baltimore Ravens, of course. Why wouldn't that be? So now you've got Zay Flowers. Hey, what happened to Zach Ertz? Did he sign with anybody? Shit, man. If I were the Ravens, I'd bring his ass in. I'd bring him in. Why not? See if he's got anything in the tank, too. I don't need him to be a superstar. So you got Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham, Lamar Jackson, and Dalvin Cook, and a defense that's outstanding, and Roquan Smith and Queen at linebacker. And you got a Pro Bowl corner. Whew. That's how you do business, man. And you know what the Eagles do? They sign Rashad Penny. Wait a minute. Okay, do we not agree? Dalvin Cook will give Baltimore more than what Rashad Penny gave the Eagles this year. Is that fair? Like, for Rashad Penny to pay off, he would have to have 257 yards in a divisional game against the Cowboys or the 49ers for it to pay off. Hey, we saved our 1957 Harley Davidson for this moment. Man, Dalvin Cook, a Raven. James, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Yeah, hey, I'm not looking for Dalvin Cook to go to Baltimore and put up 110 yards. I just need Dalvin Cook to give me 50 a game. Just to get this, Dalvin Cook will be more of a decoy and also some production. That will be enough. I don't need a lot with that guy as my guy. You heard what Jason Cole said also. By the way, once again, I guess Jason Cole flip-flopped because last year he said he'd take Jalen. And he goes, well, Lamar changed the narrative this year. Hello. That's what happens when normal people cover the sport instead of dopey fans who think you have to stick to a take. Takes are not, wait, get this. Takes are not put in cement. You're wrong and right. Okay? When you make a comment on something, that's not forever. I was doing something prior to talking to my friend Tone, and where am I right here? Okay, we got plenty of time. I didn't even get to the second topic yet, and that was the direction of the Eagles and where I think they should go. And some of the players that I was looking at when it came to the upcoming offseason, and notably with the draft. We'll do free agency. We'll try to do that tomorrow, actually. Okay? I'm going to go back over this list, and I'm going to reset this here. And so what I did was I got a list from our friends at Bledsoe. It's the scouting service that puts together the intel for the teams, and then the team dissects the intel. But here's the thing that I will tell you. Remember something. The Eagles, I'm talking common sense here. When it comes to their drafts, they're not very good at it. They're not a very good drafting team. They're not. They're okay. They're okay in their draft. They're okay. They're not great. And I asked you the positions that you thought they needed. Corner, linebacker, running back, two positions that they don't give a shit about. You could have put Dalvin Cook in the backfield with, hey, let me ask you this. You think Dalvin Cook could have helped DeAndre Swift and Jalen Hurts out? You didn't really need a lot. Oh, that's right. They don't value the position. You're not going to be in a position to get the kid Kool-Aid McKinstry. He'll be a top 10 kid. Nate Wiggins, you might be in a position, the kid from Clemson. He's a pretty good ball player. They had a good year. I really don't like a lot of people from the Big Ten. Cooper DeJean, Iowa. He'll be down there around where you're going to be picking. Teron Arnold, Bama. I love the kid a lot. He'll be around in a position where you're going to be able to maybe potentially pick the kid. Enos Rankstraw, Missouri. I love the kid. Big 12, plays against a lot of passing offenses. That'd be somebody that I would take a look at, depending on what you do in the draft if you're going to trade up. But priority number one is corner. It's my birthday, and I'll still give you my left kidney for us to draft Trotter Jr. I'll get to the linebackers. We'll do that now here. I think Dallas Turner, he's more of an edge guy. So I'm going to kind of take him off the list and put him over with the edge guys. This kid, Edwin Cooper from A&M, I love this kid. He's a Mike backer. Would they draft a guy like that in the first round? Would they change their philosophy? Like Tone and I say, that's the right thing to do. You should, if you don't want to pay Dalvin Cook, then draft a Mike linebacker in the first round. You're telling me you won't draft a Mike linebacker after what you've learned and the mistakes that you've made over the decades. You will not try it again. You're afraid to pay the money for a veteran, and you'll play garbage cans. And the two best teams in both conferences are stacked with superstar linebackers. Doesn't that tell you all you need to know? The two best teams in the AFC and the NFC are San Francisco and Baltimore. And they're 1-2 and duos at inside linebacker with Queen and Smith and with Greenlaw and Warner. And you play trash cans. You play trash cans. Trotter is not a first rounder. And by the way, here's my problem with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He's 6 foot 225. I got a guy like that already on my roster that I don't think can handle the NFL. That's a little dude. He's 6 feet. I'm not having Jeremiah Trotter Jr. play Mike linebacker at 6 feet 225. I don't think so. Now he's a 4'5" guy. Could he play outside? Maybe. Play him at the Sam. Okay. I don't know. I think he's a small dude. Like here, the kid Chris Barneswell from Bama. He's 6'3", 255. That's a guy you need in the Mike. That's somebody you want in the new Mike linebacker position. That's the guy you want to have. You want to have a big-bodied guy in there that can cover some tight ends. He runs a 4.45. That's the quintessential guy that you would want to have in there at Mike, is someone that can cover and someone that's a big dude. Trotter, 6 feet, 225, 230. That's a little dude. Just because you see the name Trotter doesn't mean it's the same apple. That kid, Tommy Etchenberg, 6'2", 240 from Ohio State. He's a good-looking prospect as well. He's a good-looking player. Your running backs. What round would you think that they would look at the running back position this coming season when they know they're going to have to replace Swift? And just get this out of your mind now. Know this. You are not re-signing DeAndre Swift unless they change their philosophy. Unless they change their philosophy. Okay? Jonathan Brooks, the kid from Texas, 6 feet. He could be somebody that you take in the second round, third round. Too high for them, though. Now, then again, they may take somebody in the second or third round because he'd be on a rookie contract. Yeah, Zach Cunningham is not the answer. He's the best of the worst. The kid Barlow from FSU looks like a player, 6'1". Tell me something this. Blake Corum. Name me one running back in Michigan history that's been decent in the pros. Name me one. Tim Bianca-Patuka. Name me one Michigan running back that has been a good NFL star, a great NFL star from that program. Name me one. Blake Corum, 5'8"? Not me. He's a good college guy. Name me one guy that was a superstar running back from Michigan in the 100 years of Michigan football. Tommy Harmon in the 40s? Who? Blake Corum is not an NFL prospect. He's not. By the way, I love how everyone's looking at Michigan now and calling it like, what a great program. What a super. Dude, Michigan has not been a national program forever. They have won a half of a national championship in the last 75 years. Don't make it sound like Michigan has been a national power, like winning national championships in the last 70 years. Their big thing was winning the Big Ten. That's all they cared about. They never cared about winning national titles. Okay? Michigan doesn't produce running backs, and they hated Brady. Outside of Brady, there's another one. Between Ohio State and Michigan, when it comes to quarterbacks, I don't know who's produced worse. Both of them are terrible. Yeah, I'd like the kid Henderson from Ohio State. I'd like to have him in the backfield in Philly. That kid Henderson looks like a pretty good player, and he could be there in the third round, depending on what he does at the combines. He could be there third, fourth round. I think he's a good-looking football player. That kid Irvin up in Oregon looks pretty good, too. Those are guys that are going to be around your budget and around Howie's see, Howie has a zipper on his wallet now. We know this. Okay? He's got a zipper on his wallet. Let's get the edge. That kid from UCLA could be the best player in the draft. Lataha, UCLA. That kid, I believe he won the Lombardi Trophy. I voted for him. 6'5", 270. This kid looks great. And boy, I'll tell you, if he's down there around 23, I'm going to draft that guy in the first round. I don't think he'll be down that far. I think he's going to be up very high, around 12 or 13. You may have to trade up to get him. But to me, I would target that kid from UCLA. He is a great-looking talent. He's big. He's rangy. I would totally love to have that guy in Philly taking over for Brandon Graham. That could be your heir apparent to Brandon Graham, this kid from UCLA. And I think he could be down there. Or Howie may have to move up a couple spots and be creative to try to get up there and get this guy. That kid can play. But wait a minute. It'd be a gift from Chip Kelly. Chip gives me Lane Johnson and Latahu. Oh, holy cow. Chip gives you the kid. You draft the Chip Kelly guy. Do you think Howie would draft? Hey, oh my God. Hey, Tone. Do you actually think Howie would draft a Chip guy? Even if this guy, who I think would be the perfect fit for the Eagles, he's the best edge rusher in the draft. The kid from FSU is pretty good. That kid, Jared Verse, he's pretty good too, man. But, I mean, yeah, man. How he makes decisions with his ego. In his ego. That's right. That's totally right, man. Can't draft a Chip guy. Chip? That's Chip's guy? No way. No way. He'll take Jared Verse, who's not bad. He's a good-looking player, FSU kid. I like that kid, Chip Robinson from Penn State. I think he's a good ball player, too. I think Manny Diaz did a really nice job with him. Dallas Turner's a good-looking player. Probably bottom of the first round, somewhere in there. Same with that kid Barswell. Those would be kind of some guys to take a look at for them. Safety position. The kid Bullard from Georgia. They would never take a safety in the first round. What round would – that's a great point. What round do you think that they would take a corner? Would they take a corner in the first? Yes. Would they take a linebacker in the first? No. Would they take a linebacker in the second? No. Would they take a linebacker in the third? Yes, they have. So I'm saying third. So corner they would take in the first. Boy, this is how you get a profile on your general manager. They'll take a corner in the first. They'll take a linebacker in the third. This helps me a lot. What round would they take a running back? Fourth or fifth? Edge, 1. What round would they take a safety? Third? So in the positions of need, corner 1, linebacker 3rd round, running back 4th or 5th, edge 1st round, safety 3rd. That's how you put a draft board together, because you figure out the mentality of the team you're talking about. That kid Bullard from Georgia would be somebody, but he's a 1st-round prospect. Look, the kid Kyle Hamilton went. I don't think the Eagles would do that. They're looking more down here. The kid from the University of Miami, Kitchens, somebody like that, or that kid Moore from Michigan, who's a pretty good ball player. Those two guys, I'm not taking that kid Bullock from USC. I don't think there's any good defensive players on that team. I think Lincoln Riley does a poor job of it. So, yeah, it's interesting how you look at the profile. All right, let me take a timeout. Hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At Malamut & Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their Fantasy Pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, Then do what you usually do on a Sunday. Watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Here is the draft order for the Eagles here as we're looking at it as we get ready. Round one. Round one is yet to be determined what the pick is because of playoff seeding. Round two via New Orleans. So they got 2 2s. They got a 3, 5, a 5, a 5, a 5 via Minnesota, Tampa Bay, and a 6 from Atlanta. Tone, is that with the compensation picks? I thought those things come out as we get into the new calendar year. Is that with compensation picks? I don't think though. Yes, they include comp picks. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, the numbers with the stars are the comp picks. Got it. Okay. Okay, so what I would do if I'm Howie, I have to address here. Let's see if I can do this before we go. How many people do I have to replace on defense? I've got to get a starting corner, and I want depth at corner. So I need 2 corners. So I could probably get a free agent corner and a draft corner. So I'm going to draft 2 I'm going to draft 2 corners. I don't think you can never have enough. I got to get linebackers. I would take two of those 5th rounders and trade them for a 3rd rounder for a linebacker. Because you need to replace a linebacker. DE is going to be edge rusher. The corner's going to be the first round. Hey, that's it. The corner's going to be the first round pick. The 2nd round pick will be the edge guy. And those 5th rounders will be linebackers, running backs, an O-lineman, a safety, maybe a backup quarterback. Is Mariota on a 1-year deal? He's out. So you'll need a backup. But you can get that in free agency. Corner, edge, and those 5 fifth rounders, 4 fifth rounders, 1, 2, 3, 4 fifth rounders. That 6th rounder, I'll parlay that somewhere. He don't have enough picks to retool that defense. He's going to have to do some free agency. He's going to be more active in free agency than in the draft. He's got to be, because he doesn't have enough draft equity to replace that shitty defense. You've got to get edge depth. You've got to get a starter for your edge. You need the entire linebacking core replaced. The safeties have to be revamped. You have to find a corner and more depth at corner. Shit, you got to start getting more depth at offensive line as well, in my opinion. We're going to take a look at that free agency list. We'll take a look at that free agency list tomorrow. Crazy. Dalvin Cook signs with the Baltimore Ravens. Good move for them. All right. Guys, I appreciate it. Xander, Big Joe, thank you as always. My friend Tone, once again, we dissect the world here. We expose the frauds here. It's what we do. Tell you what my friend Tone does. Don't portray him. The one thing, Tone's like Italian. Tony must be Italian, as far as I'm concerned. This guy's like a mafioso here. And I'm going to tell you why he's like a mafioso. Because this is what happens. When I find out who you are, things are going good. It's no good. Okay? This is what it is. And I'm going to have to call Luca Brasi. It's just not going to happen. All right? I got a Luca Brasi in the media here. How you doing? All right. Tone, great stuff. 2 to 6 tomorrow. And we shall see you on the flip side.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.